Chapter 588. To Han Yunqing and the rest, this news was even more surprising than Chu Qingge's early delivery. Cloud Realm Trade Consortium was openly supporting the Chu clan and providing them with large amounts of grain and weapons. It has to be them. The D clan has to be them. Tang Li was very excited. Definitely. Master, Chu Tianyin is lying. The Chu clan long knew of the D clan's whereabouts, and they're on good terms with them. Chu Shifeng chimed in. His Highness Duke of Qin had told him to investigate Cloud Realm Trade Consortium for a long time. Long before Ouyang Ningnua had colluded with Jun Yixia to fish on Fishery Island, His Highness Duke of Qin had been paying close attention to Cloud Realm Trade Consortium. He'd done so precisely because he had his suspicions. Cloud Realm Trade Consortium had started out by trading at the border regions. Within a few short years, they'd spread their businesses throughout Tianning and Western Zhou, and even northernly. They'd developed into one of Cloud Realm continent's wealthiest groups. How could such a business be possible without solid foundations? Which self-made person didn't have investors behind them? The Duke of Qin had once suspected that Cloud Realm Trade Consortium was either part of the D clan itself, or they were controlling it from behind the scenes. Now the truth had come to light. Ouyang Ningnua, looks like his surname isn't Ouyang, but Ning. Tang Li mused. And that Ouyang Ning Jing? Her surname is Ning, but her first name is Jing. Han Yunqing remained silent. She really had misunderstood before. Eastern and Western Qin had been destroyed so long ago. Why would the descendants of the seven noble families talk about loyalty and loyalty now? The Nether clan's Chu clan was the executioner who'd killed the last imperial prince of Western Qin. They were once loyal merchants of Western Qin, but now they were colluding with the Nether clan as well. What future prospects did merchants have if they didn't work with officials and military officials? Once they gained the support of Cloud Realm Trade Consortium and Empress Shui, it looked like the Chu clan was determined to conquer the three eastern prefectures of Western Zhou. Cloud Realm Trade Consortium. Long Fei Yi grew interested. Chu Shifeng, send a letter back to the Commander-in-Chief's estate in the south regions. Just say that your lordship wants to reduce taxes on the land and increase taxes on merchants. Also, Cloud Realm Trade Consortium is involved in politics. All grain crops in the south-central regions are prohibited from being sold to them. Not long ago, the Commander-in-Chief's office in South Central wanted to reform the tax system for the coming year. He had specially sent a letter to ask for Long Fei Ye's opinion, but Long Fei Ye had not replied. Now was an opportunity. At this critical juncture, he replied, reduce the land tax, give the business tax. Although it seemed simple, it actually had a profound meaning. The trade between the south-central regions was the most developed in all of Cloud Realm continent. The taxes there were high to begin with, but if they were raised even higher, the merchants would be earning money for the imperial court. This was a huge blow to Cloud Realm Trade Consortium. As for banning the sale of grain, his reason could be said to be perfectly justified. Once this news was out, it would definitely win the hearts of the people. How could the common people know about so many complicated relationships? They only cared about food, clothing, and peace. Would the South Central Commander-in-Chief's office take Long Fei Ye's opinion seriously? No, they will just take it as an order and carry it out immediately. Su Donglin, send a message to Medicine City's Council of Elders. Just say that this Wang Fei is reminding them not to forget their promise of a year, Han Yunqing said. Medicine City had agreed to cut off all trade with Cloud Realm Trade Consortium within a year. All of Cloud Realm continent's medicinal ingredients had to fall into Pill Fiend Pharmacy's hands. Although only a few months had passed, Han Yunqing still wanted to remind Medicine City at this critical juncture. Once war broke out, both grain and medicine would run short. 2 days later, the Duke of Qin's words reached the South Central Commander-in-Chief's office. That group of people didn't even wait until the new year to implement the policy of reduce the land tax, give the business tax, that very month. Moreover, They used extremely forceful methods to ban all grain sales from Cloud Realm Trade Consortium in the south-central regions. Both Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqing were surprised by the news. Those people in the south-central regions really wanted nothing more than for the world to be in chaos. They wanted nothing more than for the Duke of Qin to start a war and conquer the lands. Meanwhile, Cloud Realm Trade Consortium heard the news and held an emergency meeting at Tianning's borders. In the past, Cloud Realm Trade Consortium's meetings would be held in the main hall, but this time it was held in a secret room in a luxurious mansion. It was for no other reason than the D clan head himself. That's right, Cloud Realm Trade Consortium was under the D clan's control. Even the head of the consortium, Ouyang Ningjing, had rushed back from Medicine City. The secret room was large and spacious, but very dim. Aside from a rectangular table and chairs in the center of the room, there was nothing else. The table was very long, but only a single chair was attached to it. It was the seat of honor at the very front. It wasn't time for the meeting yet, but there was already a man sitting there. He was dressed in black robes that hid himself in the shadows, emanating an incomparably mysterious aura from head to toe. He wasn't sitting upright, but casually crossed his legs and leaned against the chair's armrest with his left hand propped against it. In the darkness, he was kissing the ring on his thumb, which glowed with a faint white light. Anyone who knew what it was would know that it was the most expensive item in Cloud Realm Continent, violet jade ice crystal. His face was covered with a bronze mask, which only covered his mouth and nose like a mask. He looked quite young, with a pair of thick brows and large eyes. It was unclear what he was staring at in the shadows, but he was currently lost in thought. His gaze was extremely arrogant. Very soon, people began to trickle into the room. Soon enough, everyone was gathered on either side of the table. The first person to stand on his left was none other than Ouyang Ningnua. Although he had been stripped of his position as head of the consortium, he was still a respected member of the D clan. As the fourth son of the first wife, he would be fine as long as his eldest brother didn't punish him, no matter how big of a mistake he made. The first seat on the man's right was empty, while the second seat was occupied by Ouyang Ningjing, who had rushed back from Medicine City. She was the second young miss of the first wife of the D clan. Unlike other women, she always wore men's clothes. Her hair was all tied up, not to hide her identity as a woman, but because she disliked women who got in the way. She preferred men's clothes to be straightforward and nimble. It had to be said that her looks were too striking. She was of average height and had a thin figure. Moreover, she never bothered to hide her name, so everyone knew she was a woman and had gotten used to her men's clothes. Although she was young, her gaze was calm and steady, making her look especially capable and experienced. The empty seat next to her naturally belonged to the eldest young Mississippi. She never attended Cloud Realm Trade Consortium's meetings, so this time was no exception. The man sitting at the table was the eldest son of the first wife of the D clan and the current head of the clan. His name was Ouyang Ningcheng, or more accurately, he should be called Ningcheng. The word Cheng and Ouyang Ningnua's Nua combined to form the word promise. There had to be a deeper meaning to the name, but only they knew what it meant. Big bro, everyone's here. Ouyang Ningnua said. Ouyang Ningcheng ignored him, lost in his own thoughts. Ouyang Ningnua was about to speak up when he saw Ouyang Ningjing glaring at him. He shrugged his shoulders and fell silent. Just like that, everyone remained standing for a full 2 hours. Finally, Ouyang Ningcheng stood up and tossed back, "You're all dismissed." Just like that, Cloud Realm Trade Consortium's most secretive meeting ended without a single word being discussed. Everyone shot questioning looks at Ouyang Ningjing. She was now the head of the consortium, so she had to give them an explanation. Ouyang Ningjing's sharp gaze swept over them before she said cold, "What's the rush? The clan head naturally has his own plans." President Jing, then Medicine City's side. Someone couldn't help but speak up. Medicine City had already stopped supplying them with a number of medicinal ingredients, all of which were popular. Once they stopped supplying them for a long time, the merchants on the next floor would definitely have complaints. Ouyang Ningjing said without hesitation, pass down my orders to stop all business with Medicine City. Medicine City broke the agreement first, so they should compensate us. Before the settlement is settled, all of Cloud Realm Trade Consortium's income from medicinal ingredients will be shared with Medicine City. Everyone grew alarmed at her words. President Jing, think thrice. President Jing will be the ones to suffer losses if we stop selling medicinal ingredients. President Jing, now's not the time to be angry. You've been in Medicine City for so long. Have you been there all this time for nothing? The clamor in the room almost drowned out Ouyang Ningjing, but she remained unmoved. She stood there with her chin raised and a cold gaze at the crowd, allowing them to shout as they wished. Her courage, aura, and charisma were no less inferior to any man's. Seeing that Ouyang Ningjing didn't make a sound, the people who were shouting gradually shut their mouths. Ouyang Ningjing sat down on the table with her arms crossed before she spoke. Those who object, please step forward. This president will give you 1 year to negotiate with Medicine City. If you can reach an agreement, the position of president will be yours. Is anyone willing? Step forward. The crowd grew even quieter at her words. No one dared to step forward. Although they weren't clear on the relationship between the Wang clan and the Duke of Qin, they were clear that Han Yunqing was the king of medicine's disciple. Medicine City revered the king of medicine, so they didn't dare to offend Han Yunqing. The only way to avoid offending Han Yunqing was to end their cooperation with Cloud Realm Trade Consortium and give all their medicinal ingredients to Pill Fiend Pharmacy. Even Ouyang Ningjing had failed to reach an agreement after months of negotiations, so who else could do it? Not to mention 1 year, even if he was given 10 years, it would still be impossible. After waiting for a while, seeing that no one stood up, Ouyang Ningjing asked coldly, since you all know it's impossible, why are you still wasting time here? At this, someone spoke up timidly, President Jing, although we can't reach an agreement, you can't just cut off all our cooperation just like that. Although we won't lose money, in the long run, before he could finish, Ouyang Ningjing coldly cut him off. In the long run? How long can it last? Do you know how many branches Pill Fiend Pharmacy has opened now? 53. The person replied honestly. Wrong. Yesterday, they opened another branch in a coastal city in Tianan country, making it a total of 54 branches. How many branches do you think Pill Fiend Pharmacy needs to open before it can control Cloud Realm Continent's medicinal ingredients market? Ouyang Ningjing asked next. At least 300 branches, big and small, the person replied. Wrong. 100 is enough, because Pill Fiend Pharmacy started selling its ingredients to small and medium pharmacies last month. Moreover, they're selling them at very low prices. Not only do they not make any money, they even have to pay for the shipping costs out of their own pockets. Everyone was stunned by Ouyang Ningjing's words. Even the silent Ouyang Ningnua was taken aback. Pill Fiend Pharmacy's move was too smart. With this method, they'd monopolize the entire medicinal ingredients market within half a year. Rather than wasting time with Medicine City without any results, we might as well accuse them of breaking the agreement early and keep all of their profits. Ouyang Ningjing added. Cloud Realm Trade Consortium and Medicine City had a year-end bonus agreement. Cloud Realm Trade Consortium would deduct the shipping costs and costs, then split the profits with Medicine City. Thus, all of the profits for this year would still belong to Cloud Realm Trade Consortium. Compared to Ouyang Ningnua, Ouyang Ningjing was more cunning and decisive. Everyone was convinced, but Ouyang Ningjing said something even more admirable. She said. Chapter 589. Ouyang Ningjing said, this president has already reached an agreement with the Northern Dynasty's emperors. Northernly is willing to rent 3 snowy mountains to Cloud Realm Trade Consortium, including the one the Mu clan used before. This president hasn't spent the past few months in Medicine City for nothing. The Mu and Xia clans have a total of 10 pharmacists who have signed lifetime contracts with the consortium. They'll all go to the snowy mountains next spring to plant medicinal ingredients. As soon as Ouyang Ningjing finished speaking, the crowd erupted in applause. Even Ouyang Ningnua had to admit that he couldn't compare. His big sister really had more tricks up her sleeves than he did. She'd actually managed to reach an agreement with the Northern Dynasty's emperors. If Jun Yixie knew about this, what would he think? Of course, Ouyang Ningnua was more eager to see Han Yunqing's reaction. Still, they'd probably keep this a secret for now. In any case, they'd scammed Medicine City for a sum of money. Once they harvested the high-yielding plants from the snowy mountains, they'd at least have a fair share of the market, even if they couldn't monopolize the market like before. Second sister, I think you should stay in the consortium forever. Don't get married. Ouyang Ningnua smiled. Get married? This young lady will only take in a son-in-law. Ouyang Ningjing said coldly. The crowd dispersed, thoroughly convinced, but Ouyang Ningnua couldn't help but ask, second sister, big brother, what does he mean? Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqing aren't easy to deal with. I don't know. Ouyang Ningjing was blunt. But I trust that big brother will amaze the world with a single brilliant feat after staying in seclusion for so long. Fine, it's fine as long as he can avenge me. Ouyang Ningnua trusted his big brother as well, especially this time when Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqing were in the open while they were in the shadows. Their chances of victory were high. After stepping down as president, he had nothing better to do, so he could ask around for information about the poison sect's perplexing butterfly illusion. Although Long Fei Yi hadn't publicly supported Western Zhou's imperial clan, his suppression of Cloud Realm Trade Consortium was a pleasant surprise to Emperor Kongcheng. The various factions of the Western Zhou dynasty had been arguing for several days. The Western Zhou army and the Chu army had been confronting each other in the 3 cities of the eastern border for nearly half a month. If Emperor Kongcheng were to give up on Empress Shui and attack the city by force, he would have a chance of winning. But if he didn't, with the Chu clan keeping the Empress in check, it would be difficult to continue the battle. A stalemate wasn't a big deal, but Chu Qingga's son had already been made the crown prince. Most likely, West Liang would make a move soon enough. Once they sent reinforcements to the Chu clan, there'd be a lot of fighting going on. For the Duke of Qin to publicly suppress Cloud Realm Trade Consortium at a time like this was a declaration of his stance. Emperor Kongcheng was waiting for the Duke of Qin to suppress the Chu clan's power in West Liang. Most likely, the entire world was thinking the same thing as Emperor Kongcheng. Even Long Tianma was waiting. General Mu, the king of Qin, will definitely support fourth brother. In Western capital, only fourth brother is capable. These days, if Long Tianma wasn't running to General Mu's residence, he would often summon the Mu family's father and son to the imperial study. Once they met, they would talk for the entire day. He was very agitated. This time, General Mu didn't deny his views. General Mu nodded and said, "It can only be the fourth imperial prince." "Father, once the Duke of Qin publicly supports the fourth imperial prince, should we bide our time?" Mu Qinggu asked anxiously. General Mu thought for a long time before stroking his beard with a sigh. The situation is a mess. Indeed, it was a mess right now. Not only did it involve the country, but other powers as well. Even Cloud Realm Trade Consortium has been dragged in. I wonder what Celestial Mountain will do. General Mu muttered to himself. Empress Shui was Duanmu Yao's birth mother, so the girl would never sit by and do nothing. In the end, General Mu said, "Let's wait and see for now." Long Tianma and Mu Qinggu were both young and full of vigor. Hearing those words made them feel powerless, but even Long Tianma, the ruler of a nation, didn't say a word. He had already learned his lesson and viewed General Mu as his military advisor. A complicated look flickered past Mu Qingwu's eyes when he saw Long Tianma's silence. He had a vague feeling that Tianan would eventually become a neutral country in Cloud Realm continent under his father's leadership. His father was a classic example of a conservative, neutral faction. Currently, Celestial Mountain had made no moves, so Western Liang's decisions would affect the overall situation. Thus, while Western Zhou's imperial family was at war with the Chu clan, the world was more interested in the contest between Chu Qingge's faction and the Duke of Qin's faction. Of course, no one besides the Chu clan knew that their eldest son, Chu Tianyin, had long fallen into the Duke of Qin's hands. So in the end, we've run into Chu Qingge again. Han Yunqing sighed with a smile. She knew that her previous contest with Chu Qingge had been a private one. Now it involved a wide range of people. Esteemed Wang Fei, aren't you overestimating Chu Qingge too much? Chu Qingge can only nurse her children now. Her father's still the one controlling the situation, Chu Shifeng said seriously. That old thief Tianhui's woman can't compare to the Duke of Qin's. Tang Li said disdainfully. Gu immediately looked at him as if wanting to say something. But after a pause, he fell silent. Long Fei Yi looked at Tang Li as well, but remained silent. Obviously, Long Fei Yi and Gu were of different moods. Han Yunqing was only sighing with emotion. She really didn't think much of Chu Qingge, so she ignored Tang Li to ask Long Fei Yi, why aren't you moving yet? I heard Tianhui's almost done for. They had already been stationed at Tianning's borders for days. Long Fei Yi really did want to support the 4th Imperial Prince against Chu Qingge, but he hadn't made a move yet. Yesterday, his scouts had reported that Emperor Tianhui's illness was beyond cure and could pass away at any time. Once Emperor Tianhui died, the Crown Prince would ascend the throne perfectly justifiably. He was still so young, so Empress Dowager Chu Qingge would definitely hold court behind the curtain. Then the Chu clan would have the final say. Long Fei Yi was about to reply when a guard came to report, Your Highness, the 4th Imperial Prince is outside asking for an audience. Everyone was surprised by the news. How did the 4th Imperial Prince know they were here? And why did he come knocking on their door? This was Long Fei Ye's courtyard by the borders, so not many people knew about it. Moreover, they didn't make any big movements here, so it wouldn't attract any attention. Isn't the 4th Imperial Prince a little too resourceful? Everyone exchanged glances. Long Fei Yi seemed surprised as well, a complicated look flashing past his eyes before he signaled for the guard to bring them inside. Tianshi greets Imperial Uncle and Imperial Aunt. 4th Imperial Prince Long Tianshi had disguised himself to look like a noble young master. As soon as he entered, he fell to his knees and called them Imperial Uncle and Imperial Aunt in an affectionate manner. Back in Tianning's capital city, Crown Prince Long Tianma had been both respectful and fearful of the Duke of Qin, to say nothing of the other imperial princes. Gu and the rest had long left the room. Han Yunqing sat lazily in her seat and gave Long Tianshi a once-over. Her instincts told her that she didn't like him, so she simply drank her tea without a word. Long Fei Yi raised a hand to indicate that Long Tianshi should rise and take a seat. Long Tianshi even sat down respectfully. Imperial Uncle, my Imperial Father, I. Long Fei Yi ignored him, so Long Tianshi had no choice but to finish his sentence. I'm afraid he won't make it to the 15th. The 15th was already the 7th day of the new year. Long Tianshi waited for the Duke of Qin to speak, but he remained silent. After some hesitation, he finally rose to his feet and fell to one knee. Imperial Uncle Qin, today Tianshi represents all of Tianning's civil and military officials to invite the Duke of Qin into the palace and persuade Imperial Father to remove the Crown Prince. If Imperial Father insists on having a premature baby as the Crown Prince, then we are willing to recommend Imperial Uncle Qin to take the throne and eradicate the Chu clan's demon kin gang. We will restore Tianning's might. Even though Long Tianshi looked like a lackey, the things he did one after another were completely unexpected. Han Yunqing assumed that Long Tianshi had come to ask for help, but who knew he'd say something like this? Was he going to push the Duke of Qin out to fight the Chu clan for the throne? Needless to say, the current situation was really a great opportunity. Once Long Fei Yi took over Tianning, the south-central regions would definitely surrender. Then it'd be no problem to deal with Tianan, where Long Tianma resided. If what Long Tianshi said was true, then Tianning country really could restore its might. Unfortunately, Long Fei Yi wasn't so narrow-minded. If he wanted Tianning, why would he wait until now to destroy it? All of the civil and military officials. Long Fei Yi asked with interest. Long Tianshi couldn't wait to reply. Exactly. The military officials include 3 elite troops from the east and south, as well as a cavalry battalion from the north. Long Tianshi snuck a glance at the Duke of Qin before continuing, Imperial Uncle, I won't hide it from you. Great General Ning didn't express his stance at first, but a few days ago, Empress Chu beat up noble Consort Ning. In his anger, Great General Ning almost led his troops into the palace, but was stopped by a few officials. Great General Ning is in the West capital. Long Fei Yi asked again. Great General Ning's already been there for a few days. Moreover, he's already issued orders to the entire cavalry battalion. Within 5 days, 100,000 soldiers will head south to guard the western borders. Great General Ning is on guard against the Chu clan troops. Long Tianshi replied. Han Yunqing was slightly bewildered. Great General Ning's military strength was enough to usurp the throne. Although noble Consort Ning was childless, if Chu Qingge could give birth prematurely, why couldn't she fake a child? Everyone said that Great General Ning was loyal and devoted to Tianning's imperial family. Could it be that this was true? Thus, he had no choice but to have Long Tianshi beg Long Fei Yi. It wasn't just Long Tianshi. Han Yunqing was waiting for Long Fei's reply as well, but Long Fei only said, go back first. Your lordship will send someone to give you an answer in 3 days. Thank you, Imperial Uncle Qin. Long Tianshi was very happy. With Imperial Uncle Qin's personality, the fact that he'd consider the matter meant that there was hope. As soon as Long Tianshi left, Han Yunqing spoke up. Long Fei Yi, what do you think? She couldn't see through him, because she didn't know much about Great General Ning. But she had a feeling that the 4th Imperial Prince's trip wasn't the idea of the court officials, but Great General Ning alone. Emperor Tianhui wouldn't listen to persuasion at a time like this, especially Long Fei Yi's. Thus, Great General Ning had sent the 4th Imperial Prince here to test whether the Duke of Qin had any interest in the throne. The 4th Imperial Prince's idiot probably assumed that Great General Ning was trying to support him and was secretly pleased with himself. When Long Fei Yi didn't reply, Han Yunqing asked next, does this Great General Ning really want to push you onto the throne? Or, does he already have the heart to fight for the throne and fear you, so he came to test you out? Long Fei Yi looked back at Han Yunqing and beckoned her over with a finger. Faced with his actions, Han Yunqing couldn't help but shuffle over to scoot closer. Long Fei spoke in a low voice by her ear. It wasn't clear what he said, but Han Yunqing grew alarmed. How is that possible? Chapter 590. As for Great General Ning's motives, Long Fei Yi's opinion shocked Han Yunqing, because Long Fei Yi suspected that Great General Ning was related to the Di clan. How is that possible? Han Yunqing couldn't believe it. If that was true, then the Di clan had hidden themselves too deeply. They controlled a third of Tianning's military strength, but they were so patient that they hadn't betrayed them yet. But that wasn't the most important part. If that was true, then the Di clan's strength couldn't be underestimated. Great General Ning originally only controlled Tianning's cavalry, but Emperor Tianhui had moved the capital west after Tianning's internal strife. Out of consideration for Great General Ning's loyalty, he'd given him the Tiger Tally for the 2 armies that had followed him west. He'd been conferred the title of Tianning's Great General and held all military power. If Great General Ning really was a member of the Di clan, then faced with such a strong military force and Cloud Realm Trade Consortium's financial resources, even Long Fei Yi and Northern Li's imperial court would fear them. This estate was auctioned off at the 3-way black market. If 4th Imperial Prince could find the entrance so accurately, then the secret must have been leaked there. Long Feiyi said. Han Yunqing finally understood why Long Feiyi suspected Great General Ning of being related to the D clan. After all, Cloud Realm Trade Consortium had influence in the three-way black market as well. Han Yunqing nodded thoughtfully, but Long Feiyi only said, "Want to bet?" "Your lordship is only 50% certain." Indeed, this point alone was enough to make them suspicious. There was no way to be 100% certain that Great General Ning was a member of the D clan. After all, the three-way black market was a complicated place. It might not have been Cloud Realm Trade Consortium who'd leaked the news, much less the 4th Imperial Prince. "Alright, then I'll bet that Great General Ning is a member of the D clan." Han Yunqing smiled. She was using the same old trick to beat him to it. Of all the people who'd bet with her before, Long Feiyi was probably the only one who dared to bet with her a second time. "So your lordship can only bet that he's wrong?" Long Fei asked with amusement. "In any case, you only have a 50% chance of winning." "Our chances of winning are 50-50. Han Yunqing said with a smile. Seriously speaking, Han Yunqing only had 50% confidence in this matter, so she didn't take advantage of him this time. He didn't know when Long Feiyi had stopped saying no to this woman. He asked straightforwardly, "What are the stakes?" Han Yunqing snickered mischievously. The more Long Feiyi looked at her, the more interested he became. Seeing that Han Yunqing didn't speak for a long time, he forced her to speak in a commanding tone. "Speak. If I win, will you hug the little thing?" After Han Yunqing finished speaking, she stared at Long Feiyi's face. Without a doubt, Long Feiyi's expression was very interesting. "If you agree to a bet, you must accept your loss. Don't go back on your word." Han Yunqing grinned. "It's only a 50% chance. Are you sure your lordship will lose?" Long Feiyi retorted. "There's still a chance, isn't there?" Han Yunqing said as she summoned the sleepy lil thing and hid it in her sleeve to gently pet it. By now, she could effortlessly send lil thing in and out of the poison storage space whenever she wanted. Still, it took a lot of effort for her to deal with such a large quantity of poison in the poison pond. Cultivation took time, especially when it came to the cultivation of the mind. If Lil Thing knew that its mama Yunxi was so considerate of it, would it be so moved that it wouldn't sleep for 3 days and 3 nights? Under Han Yunqing's meaningful gaze, Long Feiyi finally nodded. "All right." Han Yunqing rejoiced. "What are your terms?" But Long Feiyi only said, "If your lordship wins, you'll toss that rat to Pill Fiend Pharmacy to raise. You're not allowed to keep it on you anymore." Although Lil Thing was a poison beast, it hadn't recovered after Han Yunqing took its blood to save Long Tianma. Right now, it didn't have the ability to protect Han Yunqing. In Long Feiyi's eyes, it was better to toss it to Pill Fiend Pharmacy instead of keeping it on her. Han Yunqing's mouth twitched. "I've already told you many times, Lil Thing isn't a rat. It's a squirrel." How could a rat compare to a squirrel? The former was disgusting, while the latter was cute and adorable. "Think it over," Long Feiyi said mildly. In other words, if she didn't agree, they wouldn't make the bet. Han Yunqing secretly rejoiced. Long Feiyi must be regretting it now. Although she only had a 50% chance of winning, her past experience told her that this guy's judgment had always been very accurate. She promptly agreed. "There's no need to think about it. It's settled." Long Feiyi glanced at her but didn't say anything. "So it's settled?" Han Yunqing deliberately asked. Long Feiyi finally gave a muffled "Amen." Han Yunqing finally couldn't hold back and burst into laughter. Long Feiyi originally had a sullen expression, but when he saw Han Yunqing laughing like this, he couldn't help but smile helplessly. There was always nothing he could do about this woman. It was only a 50% chance of winning. Was Great General Ning really a member of the D clan? Who would win this bet between Long Feiyi and Han Yunqing? Would Lil Thing stay or leave? Everything was still unknown. Long Feiyi had promised the fourth imperial prince that he'd give him an answer in 4 days, but more things were happening at the borders before the 3 days were up. Cloud Realm Trade Consortium's first batch of aid for the Chu clan arrived in the 3 eastern prefectures of western Zhou. Besides weapons, they also included grain, blankets, and medicine for the war. It was almost the new year, and the weather was getting colder by the day. Snow had started falling yesterday, but the supplies sent by Cloud Realm Trade Consortium were enough to keep the Chu clan troops through the winter. Emperor Kong Cheng had originally only banned Cloud Realm Trade Consortium from doing business in western Zhou, but the news infuriated him. He sealed off all of Cloud Realm Trade Consortium's businesses in western Zhou and banished all of their merchants. Anyone who colluded with the consortium was to have their entire family slaughtered. But Cloud Realm Trade Consortium had long prepared for this and evacuated most of their valuable businesses. They also unilaterally terminated many high-value contracts, causing many of Western Zhou's biggest merchants to suffer heavy losses. Not only that, but Cloud Realm Trade Consortium had also hired people to spread rumors and sway public opinion to accuse Emperor Kong Cheng of being incompetent. Many of Western Zhou's merchants had strong opinions against the imperial court. Han Yunqing received a letter from Medicine City's Council of Elders as soon as she heard the news. Unilaterally terminated all contracts. Not only did they refuse to give us this year's dividends, they even demanded compensation. Han Yunqing's temper flared as she read the contents of the letter. Even Ouyang Ningjing could do something like this. Doesn't she know that doing business is all about trust? Han Yunqing fumed. Esteemed Wang Fei, Cloud Realm Trade Consortium said that Medicine City unilaterally terminated a portion of their contracts, which means they've already breached the contract. That's why they have the right to refuse to give us any profits and demand compensation. They even said that if Medicine City doesn't pay up, they'll invite the medical academy to uphold justice. Su Donglin replied honestly. Shameless. Han Yunqing laughed coldly. Although all merchants were crafty, they still had to maintain their bottom lines. Cloud Realm Trade Consortium's current actions were nothing but unreasonable pestering. So what if they find Medical City? Tell them they don't even need to think about compensation. They can't give Medicine City a single cent less, or else they'll just wait and see. Han Yunqing coldly warned. Esteemed Wang Fei, but it seems like Medicine City really did breach the contract and they unilaterally terminated the contracts. Su Donglin reminded him timidly, those agreements state that Cloud Realm Trade Consortium will have the priority to continue working with Medicine City after the contract expires. Only if Cloud Realm Trade Consortium refuses to continue working with them will Medicine City be allowed to sell the ingredients to others. That's an overlord's rule to begin with. Heaven knows how many benefits Ouyang Ning Nua gave Xie Dei when the Council of Elders signed the agreement back then. Now that the Council of Elders has been reorganized, are they still going to accept the terms? Han Yunqing retorted. Su Donglin finally understood and nodded his head. We're already letting them off by not pursuing the crime of bribery. Ouyang Ningjing really wants a yard after getting an inch. Han Yunqing was truly angry. After all, this was a sizable bonus. If Medicine City didn't get this year's bonus, it would affect the prices of medicinal ingredients next year. If it was the weather that caused the prices to rise, then there was nothing to say. But how could she not be angry when it was man-made? Moreover, Cloud Realm Trade Consortium had cheated Medicine City out of money to support the war effort. She couldn't swallow this anger. While Han Yunqing was angry, Long Fei Ye's expression wasn't any better. Still, he remained calm. It's unlikely that Cloud Realm Trade Consortium would give up on the medicinal ingredients business so easily, Long Fei Yi said simply. Snow Mountain. Han Yunqing was stunned. Last time, Juni Xia had used the mountain to bribe Xie Dei. That was when she realized that some rare medicinal ingredients could be grown in the mountains. So Cloud Realm Trade Consortium has colluded with Northernly. Tang Li said faintly. At this moment, Gu immediately rose from his seat and headed outside. So annoying. It's so complicated. This old man's going to West Jing for a look. I'll be back in a few days. Old fiend, be careful. Han Yunqing chased after him a few steps, but Gu was long gone. The situation was just as he'd said. It was so complicated. The situation was already chaotic enough. If Northern Li were to join in as well, then all of Cloud Realm Continent's powers would probably join the fray. A complicated look flickered past Long Fei Ye's eyes before he ordered, Su Donglin, send word to Wang Gong. Tell him to report the matter of the Snow Mountain to the Medical Academy. Just say that Medicine City's Council of Elders suspects Jun Yixia has something to do with it. Although the Snow Mountain was only a guess, Long Fei Yi had pushed the blame onto Jun Yixia. Even if Jun Yixia had already been demoted to a commoner, the Medical Academy wouldn't let the matter rest. They would keep a close eye on the matter. Any pharmacy with a medical token wouldn't dare to work with Cloud Realm Trade Consortium. If the consortium had any medicinal ingredients in their hands, they could only sell them directly to famous doctors. As long as the Medical Academy set their sights on Cloud Realm Trade Consortium, which pharmacy or doctor would dare to buy from them? Su Donglin left with his orders. Long Fei Yi finally turned to Han Yunqing and said, Esteemed Wang Fei, please calm your anger. Han Yunqing gave a snort of laughter as her anger was extinguished. Cloud Realm Trade Consortium was very treacherous, but Long Fei Yi was even more sinister. Tang Li and Chu Shifeng were both stunned by the sight. They'd finally witnessed how the Duke of Qin coaxed esteemed Wang Fei to cheer her up. He'd even said something like, Esteemed Wang Fei, please calm your anger. Your Highness Duke of Qin, a world war is about to break out in Cloud Realm Continent. Is it really alright for you to flirt like this at the borders? Chu Shifeng reminded him in a low voice, Your Highness, you should reply to the 4th Imperial Prince's letter. How would Long Fei Yi reply to the 4th Imperial Prince? Would he go to Westliang? Or stay here? Chapter 591. 3 days had passed, so it was time for Long Fei Yi to give 4th Imperial Prince Long Tianshi an answer. Long Fei Yi took out a letter and handed it to Chu Shifeng. Give this to 4th Imperial Prince. Say that this is your lordship's letter of advice to His Majesty to depose the Crown Prince and set up a new one. If His Majesty insists, your lordship will send more troops to the south. I won't let the Chu clan troops take a single step into Tianning. Han Yunqing could guess that Long Fei Yi would do this. If they rashly went to Western Liang now, there was a 50% chance they'd fall into a trap. Sending a letter was the safest way. If Great General Ning really wanted to push Long Fei Yi onto the throne, Long Fei Yi could send troops from the south to suppress the Chu clan and make friends with Western Zhou. Then he'd be able to take control of the western regions very quickly. If Great General Ning really was a member of the Di clan, then Long Fei Ye's troops could be considered a precaution against the Di and Nether clans. He was afraid that there would be a great battle at that time. Long Fei Ye's ultimate goal in coming to Western Zhou was to take control of this region as well. After sending the letter, they waited for the 4th Imperial Prince and Great General Ning's reactions. As expected, the 4th Imperial Prince came back a few days later. Imperial Uncle, Imperial Father is simply, I. Imperial Father didn't even read your letter before tearing it up in front of everyone. He even said, he said he'd personally train the Crown Prince. Once the Crown Prince comes of age, he'll abdicate the throne. Han Yunqing smiled coldly from the sidelines. Heaven knows if Emperor Tianhui's words were just his sleep talk, or if the 4th Imperial Prince didn't even send the letter. Long Fei Yi was unperturbed. Looks like it's time for your lordship to send out troops. The south-central regions had more than just a navy. The 2 armies stationed there were now under the control of the Bailey army. Delighted, the 4th Imperial Prince blurted out, Imperial Uncle, Great General Ning wants to see you. See him? Han Yunqing looked at him in disbelief. Cold, Long Feiyi asked, "What, he wants to see your lordship without paying me a visit?" Frightened, the fourth imperial prince hastened to explain. "No, no. Uncle, you've misunderstood." Great General Ning was afraid that imperial uncle would not want to see him, so he asked for instructions first. When would imperial uncle be free, and where would be a good place to meet? If it's appropriate here, Tian sure will pass on the message now. Long Feiyi sneered, when did Great General Ning's face become so big? Why would a dignified son of the imperial family send a message? As soon as these words came out, the fourth prince was speechless. He had been so elated by Great General Ning's promise of becoming the emperor that his soul had almost left his scabbard. Now, it could be said that he obeyed Great General Ning's every word and was willing to run errands everywhere. As a matter of fact, when he heard that Imperial Uncle Qin was going to send out troops, he was so happy that he almost lost his sense of direction. After a long while, the fourth prince reluctantly gave a lame explanation. "Imperial Uncle, you misunderstood. Tianshi." Tianshi meant that since Imperial Uncle is going to send troops, shouldn't you meet with Great General Ning and have him report the military situation at the border? That was how a prince should behave. Long Feiyi replied with 2 words, "Approved." After the fourth prince left, Han Yunqing smiled and said to Long Feiyi, "The original 50% chance should be increased by another 10% to 60%, right? To be able to make Long Tianma so obedient, even reversing the master-servant relationship, Great General Ning wasn't someone to be trifled with." 70%. Long Feiyi replied. 70% chance, so you're saying that you're prepared to lose to me? Han Yunqing pretended to be serious. Long Feiyi was immersed in the struggle for power and seemed to have forgotten that he had a bet with this woman. As soon as he heard this, he picked up a cup of tea and drank it. Han Yunqing had long seen through this action of his. When he was unwilling to answer or had nothing to say, he would drink tea. However, Han Yunqing didn't know that this kind of situation would appear on her side. Although it was still the 12th lunar month, Han Yunqing felt that Lil Thing's spring was just around the corner. Not 2 days later, Great General Ning really did come to pay a visit. Han Yunqing had never seen Great General Ning in person. She only knew that he was Tianning's youngest general. Who knew that he would scare Han Yunqing so badly when she saw him in person? He was completely different from how she imagined him to be. Great General Ning wasn't dressed in military armor, nor did he carry any weapons. Instead, he was dressed in a Confucian robe and had his hair tied up in a half ponytail. Although his features were well defined, with thick brows and large eyes, he didn't have an aggressive gaze. Instead, he gave off a reserved aura. If not for Long Feiyi's suspicions, Han Yunqing's intuition about this Great General Ning wouldn't be that bad. However, Long Feiyi's suspicions had made Han Yunqing think of someone else, Ouyang Ningnoa. After careful comparison, the two of them did have similar auras. As for whether Great General Ning was like Ouyang Ningnoa, hiding a treacherous side beneath his refined appearance, it was impossible to say for now. Still, Han Yunqing couldn't help but imagine what those eyes would look like on the battlefield. What would they look like if they were used in battle? Would that reveal the true nature of this fellow? While Han Yunqing was studying Great General Ning, he suddenly looked over at her. Han Yunqing was very generous and didn't avoid his gaze. Instead, she continued to look at him with the air of a Qin Wangfei. By now, Great General Ning had already paid his respects to Long Feiyi. He only glanced at Han Yunqing before bowing his head and resting his right hand on his left shoulder. He made a 90-degree bow to Han Yunqing and said, "This general pays his respects to esteemed Wangfei." "Great General Ning may dispense with the formalities," Han Yunqing said. Great General Ning rose to his feet. Long Feiyi didn't give him a seat, so he had him stand where he was. "When I heard that Your Highness Duke of Qin intended to head north, this general came to express his gratitude." Great General Ning said earnestly. "It is this prince's duty to eliminate the Chu clan and support the Long clan. What are you thanking me for?" Long Feiyi asked. This general has brought the cavalry battalion and the western troops to express his gratitude for saving our lives. The cavalry battalion and the western troops may not be able to resist the Chu clan's forces. If that happens, all of our soldiers will die tragically on the battlefield. However, if Your Highness Duke of Qin is willing to send reinforcements north, our army will be greatly strengthened. 2. Our morale will be boosted, and 3. The enemy will be deterred. It will be a great fortune for our army to reduce casualties. Great General Ning looked refined, but his words were sonorous and forceful. He had the stern aura of a military man. Reducing casualties is also this prince's duty. Do I need you to thank me? Long Feiyi asked again. Great General Ning immediately bowed. Yes. This general misspoke. This fellow has quick reflexes. He doesn't even show his emotions on his face. Han Yunqing didn't say a word, but simply observed from the sidelines. After all, this fellow's origins were directly related to Liu Thing's fate. Your Highness Duke of Qin, this general still has something to report, Great General Ning said next. Long Feiyi replied coldly. Great General Ning could only continue. As this general understands, Cloud Realm Trade Consortium has provided red coat cannons to the Chu clan this time. They've already delivered them. At this, Long Feiyi's cold eyes flickered. How many? At least 3. Great General Ning replied. In Cloud Realm Continent, gunpowder was controlled by the various armies, but the red coat cannons weren't in the hands of the military. Instead, they were made by a skilled craftsman. This craftsman lived in the lawless three-way battlefield and hid in the three-way black market all year round. He wasn't restricted by any country. A few years ago, he'd made a single red coat cannon and put it on sale in the market. Over the past few years, there had been no news of red coat cannons, but Cloud Realm Trade Consortium had actually gotten their hands on 3 of them. Leaving aside Long Feiyi, even Han Yunqing was astonished. Although red coat cannons were antiques that could be placed in museums in her eyes, they were still a godly existence in the era of cold weapons. What do you mean? Long Feiyi asked. The Chu clan troops are all elite soldiers with strong archers. Now that they have red coat cannons, they're like tigers that have grown wings. They can't be underestimated. In this general's humble opinion, this general's 2 armies will attack from the east while Your Highness's forces from the north will attack from the south. Then we'll join forces with Western Zhou to attack from the west. This will form a 3-pronged encirclement. In this way, the Chu clan will have no choice but to surrender. Great General Ning said seriously. Long Feiyi nodded in silence. He rapped his knuckles on the table, indicating for Great General Ning to sit on one side. Great General Ning respectfully took a seat and explained the situation in the east, as well as the details of his forces. Han Yunqing was puzzled. Why was Great General Ning so determined to deal with General Chu? Could it be that their 70% confidence was wrong? Did Great General Ning have nothing to do with Cloud Realm Trade Consortium or the Chu clan? Long Feiyi allowed Great General Ning to speak without a word. By the time Great General Ning finished, he was still deep in thought. After a while, he finally spoke up. All right. Your lordship will take care of Emperor Kongcheng. Great General Ning rejoiced and rose to his feet. The Duke of Qin is wise. This general boldly asks Your Highness Duke of Qin to ascend the throne and revive our Tianning's glory. Long Feiyi laughed coldly. You betrayed Tianhui today, but will you betray your lordship tomorrow? Great General Ning immediately fell to one knee. This general is only loyal to Tianning, to my soldiers, and to the people. Emperor Tianhui is muddle-headed and dotes on Empress Chu to bring disaster to Tianning. This general has no choice but to rebel. If one day the Duke of Qin follows in Emperor Tianhui's footsteps, this general will rebel as well. Long Fei nodded his head in amusement. All right. Your lordship will remember. After Great General Ning left, Han Yunqing grew more and more bewildered. This guy is the epitome of upright loyalty. She had to admit that her resolute heart was beginning to waver. Perhaps she really would lose this bet. While she was still puzzling over the situation, Long Feiyi had long looked over and said coldly, "Have you seen enough?" What do you mean?" Han Yunqing didn't understand. "He's already gone. Why are you still looking?" Long Feiyi's voice grew even colder. Han Yunqing really was looking out the door, but her thoughts had wandered off. What? She couldn't make heads or tails of it. "Answer your lordship," Long Feiyi said icily. Another jar of vinegar overturned. Han Yunqing didn't know whether to be angry or amused. She walked over and sniffed all over his body before finally standing in front of him with a single word. "Sour." Long Feiyi didn't hesitate to push her down, causing Han Yunqing's face to crash into his chest. Chapter 592. Han Yunqing's face was pressed against Long Feiyi's chest. Although he didn't seem to be using much force, she couldn't move at all. What's the point of smelling something sour up close? You can smell it from miles away. Answer your lordship's question. Long Feiyi's deep voice seemed to come from his chest. It was low, sexy, and even a little hoarse. Han Yunqing's ears turned red at the sound. She was no stranger to this man's voice. If this was the past, Han Yunqing's mind would have gone blank by now. But things were different now. Faced with this man, she wouldn't be so foolish. In fact, she had more of her true nature. "He's already gone, but you're still so jealous." Han Yunqing was still smiling. Long Feiyi's displeasure was written all over his face. Cold, he asked, "You're not going to answer, is that it?" "Answer me first." Han Yunqing's voice was pressed against his chest, as if it could penetrate his heart. "Yes." Long Feiyi admitted it so openly that Han Yunqing gave a start. She didn't know how to continue. "Big bro," Tang Li's voice suddenly drifted over as he and Chu Shifeng strode into the room. The two of them were hiding in the dark. After watching Great General Ning leave, they immediately came back. They had a lot of opinions about this Great General Ning. Who knew that they'd run into something they shouldn't have? Tang Li subconsciously muffled his mouth, knowing that he'd ruined things. But despite his loud voice, Long Feiyi ignored him as if he hadn't heard a thing. Instead, it was Han Yunqing who seemed to be doing her best to turn around, but couldn't move. Tang Li and Chu Shifeng exchanged glances before tactfully backing away. Just as they were about to leave the room, they saw Long Feiyi lift Han Yunqing's chin and kiss her fiercely. This was actually not the first time. Tang Li remembered bumping into him once, but Chu Shifeng had lost count of how many times. In any case, they discovered that although the Duke of Qin was conservative in certain areas, he was only conservative when it came to other people. As for himself, as long as his partner was Han Yunqing, as long as he was in the mood, he could do it anytime, anywhere. Fortunately, Long Feiyi's personal coachman was not present, otherwise he would have added, indeed, anytime, anywhere. The spacious guest hall was completely silent. Long Feiyi leaned back on the chair. Han Yunqing looked like she was lying on top of him, but in reality, she was being held down by his hands. She raised her head, and he lowered his head. He sucked on her delicate lips fiercely, as if he was passionately punishing her, as if he was demanding and giving. Unknowingly, he let go of her chin and pressed on the back of her head, urging her to come closer and closer. Unknowingly, she let go of her hands that were resisting his chest. She wanted to get closer, even closer. Jealousy, questioning, joking, and serious feelings all melted into the two of them as they tossed and turned in bed. Sometimes, he'd gradually become gentle. But this time, it was clearly different. This time, he was more intense, like a fierce beast surging in his chest. She almost couldn't take it. Amidst the heat, he allowed her a moment to catch her breath before another round of surges followed. After an unknown number of times, he finally let go of her in satisfaction, allowing her to lean against his chest again. She gasped for air and was almost out of breath. Every time she was bullied to the point of no return, she'd warn herself that there wouldn't be a next time. This man couldn't be provoked, but as time went on, she'd forget and suffer the consequences of her own actions. Actually, her breathing was ragged, but not as fast as his heartbeat. Leaning against his chest, she could clearly hear his violent heartbeat. After resting for a long time, he finally spoke, his voice as cold as ever. "Did you taste it?" "What?" she asked offhandedly. He knitted his brows again and lifted her chin again, forcing her to look at him. Arching a brow, he asked, "Is it sour? Do you still want to taste it?" So, did he just let her have a taste? She finally understood. Her face, which was already hot, seemed to be burning up. She slapped his hand away and turned her head away from him. How could this guy ask such a shameless question in such a serious manner? Coquettish on the outside. She sent him these two words in her heart. Could this be considered as subduing this woman? Every time he kissed her until she was weak and paralyzed on top of him, he would think so. Perhaps it was because he was hiding too much, or perhaps it was because he couldn't give her more, so even though he was holding this woman, he still felt a sense of distance from her. Han Yunqing, if there really was 100 steps. How many more steps did this prince have to take? The two of them didn't speak again. It seemed silent, but it was actually warm. In the quiet room, the two of them embraced each other in silence. Time seemed to have stopped here. Whether it was teasing or being naughty, it was fine. No matter how much they teased each other or how naughty they were, their hearts would always tacitly approve of it. After a long time, Han Yunqing finally spoke up. "Long Fei Yi, the more I looked at that surnamed Ning just then, the more I felt something was off. We need to reduce our chances by at least 30%. Before, Long Fei Yi was 50% certain that Great General Ning was from the D clan's Ning clan. Then the 4th Imperial Prince's visit increased his chances by another 20% to 70%. Now that Han Yunqing had cut off 30%, he was left with 40%. "Are you sure?" Long Fei Yi asked. "I'm sure. I don't think so. Moreover, if he's from the D clan's Ning clan, then he's obviously seeking death by asking you to attack the Nether clan from 3 sides." Han Yunqing replied seriously. "Then are you still betting?" Long Fei Yi asked next. Han Yunqing thought it over, then asked, "What about you? Are you still betting?" "Yes." Long Fei Yi said without hesitation. Cloud Realm Trade Consortium had clearly helped the Nether clan, but if Great General Ning was from the D clan, why would he do such a thing against them? After all, as soon as Long Fei Yi contacted Emperor Kong Cheng and sent troops from the south, the Chu clan wouldn't be able to hold out any longer. "How can you be so sure?" Han Yunqing asked. Long Fei Yi didn't answer, but asked, "Are you betting or not? Can I back out of the bet?" Han Yunqing asked. Long Fei Yi nodded. Now Han Yunqing was in a dilemma. If she kept betting and Great General Ning really wasn't from the D clan, then she'd lose and Lil Thing would be sent back home. If she won, then Long Fei Yi would have to hold Lil Thing for a while. As she analyzed the situation, she suddenly suspected that Long Fei Yi was trying to confuse her on purpose so she could give up on the bet. "I'll continue." Han Yunqing made her final decision. It's really tiring to play mind games with this guy. It's even more tiring to compete with IQ. Long Fei Yi's mouth twitched. Actually, he was already certain that Great General Ning was from the D clan. He'd said so much just then to confuse Han Yunqing and make Han Yunqing give up on the bet. But this woman was clearly wavering, but still persisted in the end. It's really tiring to compete with this woman in terms of brain power. As soon as he thought of that furry mouse, Long Fei Yi grew irritated. No matter how confident they were, it was still just their guesses. Before the truth was revealed, no one could be sure of the final outcome. That very day, Long Fei Yi sent a letter to Emperor Kong Cheng, proposing a joint operation. At the same time, he called for General Bailey to have the two southern armies continue north. Actually, Long Fei Yi had already ordered them to head north secretly when he arrived in western Zhou. Moreover, these two armies weren't far from the northwestern border to begin with, so it wouldn't be difficult for them to reach the border within 10 days. The next day, Long Fei received definite news that Great General Ning had begun to transfer his troops. He'd sent out 2 units, but the cavalry battalion didn't head south, but stayed at the northern borders to guard against the northern Li army. Another day, Emperor Kong Cheng replied with a letter. Not only did he agree to the joint operation, but he also expressed his gratitude to the Duke of Qin. He expressed his hope to see Long Fei Yi ascend the throne and change Tianning's fragmented state. At the same time, he promised that Western Zhou would continue to form an alliance with Tianning through marriage once the Duke of Qin ascended the throne. They would then work together to conquer Northern Li. Besides that, Emperor Kong Cheng even brought up the matter of Empress Shui of his own accord. He said that Western Zhou had a way to save the Empress and wouldn't delay their cooperation because of her. When Long Fei Yi showed his reply to Han Yunqi, Han Yunqing sighed with emotion. Even the Emperor has become so snobbish. Not long ago, Long Fei Yi and Emperor Kong Cheng had discussed working together against Northern Li, but Emperor Kong Cheng had tactfully refused. How long had it been since then? Now he's asking for cooperation. He's a high and mighty emperor, but he's become so snobbish for the sake of currying favor with Long Fei Yi. Han Yunqing tilted her head to look at Long Fei Yi. She had a feeling that this fellow was about to throw all of Cloud Realm continent into chaos. The 3 armies were already making preparations in secret. The situation in Western Zhou's 3 eastern prefectures was growing more and more tense. At the same time, the atmosphere in Tianning's western capital grew more and more tense by the day. A few imperial princes stood guard outside Emperor Tianhui's quarters day and night, but couldn't find a chance to meet him. The person standing guard by Emperor Tianhui's side was no longer Chu Qingge, but one of the Chu clan's men who had been lying in ambush in the palace for the past year. Currently, Chu Qingge was in her room looking after her premature son. Witch Ant had already found a few other pregnant women as backup. Like Chu Qingge, they'd all take the same medicine to induce labor. If Chu Qingge gave birth to a daughter, they'd give birth to a boy instead. But in the end, Chu Qingge still gave birth to a boy herself. The medicine had caused severe damage to her body. Not only could she not give birth again, but her body was much weaker than before. Still, it was the torment of pain that strengthened her resolve for revenge. The child was only 8 months old and required large amounts of medicine to maintain its health. Chu Qingge couldn't take care of it herself, so it was head elder Ling and Lady Lianxin who took care of the child. Neither of them revealed their identities, but wore white masks over their faces. One disguised himself as a divine doctor of the Jianghu, the other as a servant girl. Both of them stared at Chu Qingge's back from a distance without disturbing her. Head elder, I heard that the Chu clan has the support of Cloud Realm Trade Consortium, Lady Lianxin murmured. So what? Head elder Ling asked offhandedly, as if he didn't take the news to heart. Yesterday, Lianxin received news from the Medical Academy that Medicine City and the Medical Academy are suing Cloud Realm Trade Consortium. They're accusing them of colluding with Jun Yixia to stop selling medicine and poisons on the snowy mountains. Medicine City wants the Medical Academy to order all doctors to stop trading medicine with Cloud Realm Trade Consortium, Lady Lianxin said honestly. Head elder Ling looked in Chu Qingge's direction without a word. A complicated look flickered past Lady Lianxin's eyes before she secretly tugged on head elder Ling's sleeve and whined. Chapter 593. Lady Lianxin whined. Head Elder, as Lianxin sees it, the Wang clan is making up all these lies. For the sake of working with Pill Fiend Pharmacy, they broke off their agreement with Cloud Realm Trade Consortium and now they're framing them. They must have taken benefits from Pill Fiend Pharmacy. Lady Lianxin was always thinking of the Mu clan. The most direct way to turn the Mu clan around was to overthrow the current Council of Elders. That council had already become the Wang clan's tool to rule the city. Once upon a time, she'd whispered to Head Elder Ling's pillow, but she was a woman without status. No matter how good she was at pillow talk, it wouldn't last forever. Head Elder Ling silently shook off her hand and focused all his attention on Chu Qingge, or more accurately, the baby in her arms. He'd agreed to help Lady Lianxin induce labor and take care of the baby until it was 1 month old for other reasons. Chu Qingge had claimed to the outside world that she'd tripped and almost given birth prematurely, but had been saved by a nameless divine doctor. Thus, it was perfectly justified for Head Elder Ling and Chu Qingge to stay here. However, he didn't want to reveal his identity and attract too much attention, so he kept it a secret. Every day, he'd go back to write a report after taking care of the baby. On the same day, he'd sent a Flying Eagle letter to the academy head, telling him that the man was doing research and needed his medical records. Lady Lianxin was unwilling to let go of Head Elder Ling's hand. This time, she'd agreed to the Chu clan's invitation to Head Elder Ling for 2 reasons: 1, to take revenge on Han Yunqing and the rest, and 2, to have a chance to talk to him alone about the Mu clan. After all, they used to be old lovers, so Head Elder Ling should at least give her some face. Who would have thought that Great Elder Ling would actually ignore her? Madame Lianxin still wanted to hold Head Elder Ling's hand, but Head Elder Ling turned and left. Madame Lianxin hurriedly followed him all the way to his bedroom. Head Elder Ling had been pondering a single question the entire time, his heart filled with irritation. He'd used a certain medicine on the Crown Prince's body today, but nothing had happened. He couldn't figure it out, so he could only write a letter to the academy head. He was about to shut the door when Lady Lianxin reached out a hand to stop him. Only then did Grand Elder Ling notice that Madame Lianxin had followed him. He asked impatiently, "What are you doing?" "Great Elder, it's still early. Won't you invite me in for a cup of tea?" Lady Lianxin coquettishly asked. Head Elder Ling naturally understood what Lady Lianxin meant, but compared to women, he was more interested in medical research. Besides, he'd already toyed with this woman. "Why aren't you guarding the Crown Prince? If anything happens, you'll be held responsible," he lectured her sternly. Lady Lianxin wasn't convinced, but she didn't show it. Instead, she moved her hand from the door to Head Elder Ling's hand and gently caressed it. "Head Elder, Lianxin has something important to discuss with you." Great Elder Ling didn't have the slightest bit of patience. He fiercely slapped her hand away and reprimanded, "You're already so old, why are you being so cheap with this elder? Why aren't you going?" Lady Lianxin was stunned. She stood at the door in a daze as Head Elder Ling slammed the door shut. Back then, Grand Elder Ling had begged her many times in bed. But now, feeling wronged, Madame Lianxin's eyes reddened. She cursed in her heart, "Old dog. Don't ever come begging me again." Since Lady Lianxin had returned to assist Head Elder Ling, she naturally knew that he was experimenting on premature babies. She decided to wait a few days before discussing the matter of Medicine City with him. If they couldn't come to an agreement, she didn't mind using the premature babies to threaten him. In any case, she'd already thrown caution to the wind. She'd already fallen out of favor with the old dogs of the medical academy. If she couldn't support the Mu clan, then she wouldn't be able to survive in the medical academy. After all, she was only a divine doctor who'd offended countless people when she'd squeezed her way into the Council of Elders. Those who wanted to see her make a fool of herself, those who wanted to hit her while she was down, and those who wanted to step on her were too many to count. Madame Lianxin made up her mind before turning to leave. She didn't know that on a nearby roof, Gu was staring at her with a cold gaze. He'd seen everything that had happened between her and head elder Ling just now. Old dog. Ha! Gu's unruly eyes flashed with unconcealable hostility. He'd been lying in wait for days with a cold smile on his face, but hadn't made a move. He was like a hunter waiting for something. As the night deepened, silence fell upon the vast imperial palace. At this moment, a black shadow flashed past the palace walls and vanished behind Chu Qingga's quarters. Lady Lianxin had come to take care of the crown prince while Chu Qingga dragged her exhausted body to the hot springs behind the palace. Currently, she was soaking in the water and resting by the shore. Physical torment couldn't compare to mental torment. As the time for her revenge drew closer, her heart grew more restless. Over the past few days, she'd been soaking in the hot springs every night to calm her heart. Suddenly, the black shadow descended to reveal a tall man dressed in black robes that accentuated his well-built figure. He stood in the shadows like the master of the night, enigmatic and unfathomable. Chu Qingga was a martial arts practitioner, so she naturally sensed his movements. She slowly opened her eyes and saw his figure in a daze. His aura immediately stirred her to her feet as she blurted out, "Fei." In that instant, the black-robed man kicked up a wave of water. It wasn't clear whether he was trying to hide her naked body or his own vision. Coldly, he said, "Put away your amorous feelings. Don't sully this clan head's eyes." Even his voice was similarly cold. However, Chu Qingga had already sobered up and was back in the water. She looked up and saw the man standing loftily by the pool. His bronze face mask covered his mouth and nose, but his thick eyebrows and large eyes shone with a threatening heroic spirit in the darkness. His arrogant gaze was disdainful, as if he didn't care about any woman at all. She didn't want to catch his eye either. Neither did he. Chu Qingga only sighed softly. "I was wrong again. In the end, you're not him." He was very similar to Long Feiyi, both noble and cold. But he was frivolous while Long Feiyi was reserved. This man didn't seem to like being compared to Long Feiyi. He kicked up another wave of water, which turned into a sharp arrow that shot past Chu Qingga's body. This was a warning. Now Chu Qingga was thoroughly awakened from her wet dreams. She boldly rose to her feet, but he immediately turned around with disdain. Once she was dressed properly, she laughed coldly and said, "So many people want to see my body. You're a gentleman." When she hadn't married yet, countless men in the world had admired her looks. The number of people who wanted to marry her could line up from the Chu estate to the gates of White City. Even though she was married to Emperor Tianhui, there were still plenty of men who wanted to seduce her in this filthy imperial clan. The man didn't speak again, but turned to leave. Chu Qingga quickly stopped him. "All right, I won't joke around with you anymore." But the man still left. Chu Qingga used her lightness techniques to chase after him. "Which ant told me something new today?" Only then did the man land on a tree. Chu Qingga caught up and murmured, "Gu Beiyue's in their hands." "What?" The man turned around in alarm. Tianning's former chief imperial physician, head imperial physician of the Imperial Physician Courtyard, and now pill fiend pharmacy's Dr. Gu. "Gu Beiyue's in my uncle's hands," Chu Qingga said seriously. "What's going on?" the man asked cold. "I've asked for details, but which ant doesn't know either. Maybe my uncle sent people to capture him on purpose." "Gu Beiyue and Han Yunqing have a deep relationship," Chu Qingga said. "Deep relationship? Is that enough to keep Long Feiyi in check?" the man asked disdainfully. Although Chu Qingga didn't want to admit it, she still had to make an objective judgment. Yes. Because if they can keep Han Yunqing in check, they can keep Long Feiyi in check as well. A complicated look flickered past the man's eyes. What could a mere doctor have to do with Han Yunqing? "You have to believe that my uncle won't capture people for no good reason." Chu Qingga smiled coldly. Her words convinced the man. "I know." He prepared to leave after saying this, but Chu Qingga stopped him again. I've told you everything. Don't forget what you promised me. The man didn't turn around, but waved her back. Don't forget. Chu Chinga reminded him again. She didn't leave until she saw the man's figure disappear into the darkness. This man was none other than the D clan head, Ning Cheng. Chu Chinga had forced her father to swear an oath that the Chu clan would hand over Han Yunqing's life to her. But her uncle had given up on her big brother, making her realize that her father couldn't make such decisions. Just when she was at her wit's end, the D clan head, Ning Cheng, came knocking on her door and told her everything. She had sacrificed so much for the Chu clan in her life, but only now did she find out its secrets. She realized that the Chu clan was the Nether clan, and that the Nether clan wasn't a traitor to Western Qin's imperial clan. They had no choice but to kill the imperial prince all those years ago. The Nether clan head told the D clan the truth of the past, as well as the fact that the orphan of Western Qin's imperial clan might still be alive. He even revealed a secret unknown to the rest of the world: the princesses of Western Qin had a phoenix birthmark on their backs. Thus, the D clan and the Nether clan, who were loyal to Western Qin's imperial clan, decided to work together to restore Western Qin to its former glory. But Ning Cheng could tell that the Nether clan head, Chu Yuni, had long abandoned the imperial clan in his heart. He was simply using its name to win over other powers. Thus, Ning Cheng was simply beating him at his own game. Once he conquered Tianing and the 3 eastern prefectures of Western Zhou, Ning Cheng's first order of business would be to eradicate the Chu clan. Chu Chinga was surprised that Ning Cheng would come looking for her, but she had to admit that Ning Cheng had found the right person. Aside from Han Yunqing, she hated the Chu clan more than anyone else. Ning Cheng had already promised to help her capture Han Yunqing and eradicate the Chu clan, freeing her. Why wouldn't she agree? Chu Chinga returned to the hot springs, took off her outer robes, and slowly soaked herself in. She looked up at the bright moon in the sky and muttered to herself, Han Yunqing, we'll meet again soon. Tonight was the 15th. In a few days, the 3 armies would move out and the war would begin. Chu Chinga was looking forward to Ning Cheng's triumphant return. Chapter 594. It wasn't clear if someone had leaked the news on purpose, or if the mobilization of troops was too big to attract the Chu clan's attention. After the Duke of Qin, Emperor Kang Cheng, and Great General Ning decided to unite the 3 armies, the Chu clan quickly received news. Once General Chu confirmed the news, he immediately went to see Chu Yuni. Chu Yuni had already escorted Empress Shui and Gu Beiyue to the 3 eastern prefectures, but he was still blind in his right eye. Gu Beiyue's injury hadn't healed yet, so he hadn't treated him yet. He'd found at least 10 divine doctor-level doctors, all of whom gave the same diagnosis: there was no cure. He even personally went to the medical academy to seek an audience with a primogenitor doctor, but the results were the same. By the time General Chu arrived, Chu Yuni had just emerged from the secret room where Gu Beiyue was being held captive. What does Gu Beiyue mean by this? General Chu asked. Nothing. His injury will probably heal in 10 more days. Then he'll treat old man immediately, Chu Yuni intoned. General Chu's eyes flickered with doubt before he asked, although his injury is serious, he shouldn't have taken so long with his skills, right? After all, the Chu clan had provided Gu Beiyue with countless medicines after Chu Yuni's arrival in the 3 eastern prefectures. It looks like he wasn't lying before. His body really is getting weaker by the day. Chu Yuni had found a doctor to examine Gu Beiyue's injury. The doctor had said that Gu Beiyue's body had no way of healing itself, so it would heal very slowly. Big bro, in other words, we don't have to worry too much after this brat recovers? General Chu asked next. Chu Yuni only looked at him coldly. It's better to be safe than sorry. He's our final trump card. If he escapes, old man will hold you responsible. General Chu nodded resentfully. I'll send more men to stand guard here. Chu Yuni said coldly. Ever since his right eye was blinded, his mood had not been good for a single day. Although everyone in the clan treated him as respectfully as before, he could not help but feel a sense of crisis. Especially when facing his younger brother, he felt even more uneasy. Although the Chu clan had already given up on Chu Tianyin, as a father, General Chu was still concerned about his son. If one day General Chu wanted to save his son, then the first thing he had to do was to take over the position of family head. Only by taking the position of the patriarch would he have the right to speak. Because of this, Chu Yunyi's mood softened. Keeping Gu Beiyue safe is also a way to save Tianyin. Upon hearing this, General Chu seemed to have eaten a tranquilizer and was overjoyed. Understood, understood. You came to find me for something? Chu Yunyi asked. General Chu was so happy that he almost forgot the most important thing. He quickly told Chu Yunyi the details of the three armies' joint efforts. Chu Yunyi only laughed coldly. He he. Great General Ning. He he. Excellent. Excellent. He kept repeating the words excellent, until he couldn't hide his anger any longer. What a great General Ning, what a Ning Cheng. What does he mean by that? That's right. Great General Ning's name was Ning Cheng. His little sister, Tianning's noble consort Ning, was called Ning, and together with Ouyang Ning Jing, they combined to mean An Jing. The Ning clan was none other than the D clan's Ning clan. Just as Chu Yunyi was about to explode, an attendant came in to report, "Clan head, the Ning clan head has come to visit." Chu Yunyi and General Chu exchanged glances. They never expected Ning Cheng to have the gall to show up at a time like this. What was he doing here? Very soon, Chu Yunyi saw Ning Cheng in the guest hall. He was dressed in black robes and a bronze face mask. His tall and sturdy figure stood casually in the room, emanating a domineering aura that gave off an invisible pressure. His hands were clasped behind his back, his fingers gently stroking the white jade ice crystal on his thumb. Everyone knew that the Northern Dynasty's emperors had white jade ice crystal rings, while Tianning's Qin Wangfei had white jade ice crystal bracelets. But they didn't know that the D clan head had white jade ice crystals as well. This not only symbolized the D clan's wealth, but also their status as clan head. As the clan head, Chu Yunyi had only ever feared two young men in his life. One was the Duke of Qin, Long Feiyi, and the other was Ning Cheng. As soon as Chu Yunyi entered, Ning Cheng saw the bandage on his right eye. Blind, he arched an eyebrow, his voice full of contempt and arrogance. Great General Ning's scholarly demeanor was nothing more than a mask. His true self had always looked down on others. He had enough capital to stand high above everyone else. Chu Yunyi's anger was hidden in his heart, but he still replied calmly, "A minor injury." "What kind of injury?" he pressed, his tone aggressive. "Red-eye disease. It's contagious, so it's bandaged. If Ning clan head isn't afraid, old man can remove it." Chu Yunyi smiled coldly. "Remove it?" Ning Cheng didn't believe him. Chu Yunyi's eyes flashed with anger before he changed the topic. "What's the meaning of the three allied armies? You still have the face to show up at old man's place?" "That's exactly why I came," Ning Cheng smiled coldly. "What, has Ning clan head come to admit his wrongs?" Chu Yunyi asked. "No." Ning Cheng was very direct, his arrogant tone commanding. "If you're here for the man, hand over Gu Beiyue." Hearing this, Chu Yunyi sucked in a cold breath and asked, "How did you know?" "Just hand him over." "You don't need to know anything else," Ning Cheng said coldly. Chu Yunyi slapped the table and raged, "Ning Cheng, old man is yielding to you. Do you really think you're someone important? You're working with my Nether clan while allying with Emperor Kong Cheng and the Duke of Qin to attack my Chu clan troops. What's the meaning of this? And now you've come to ask for Gu Beiyue. Hee hee, do you think my Nether clan is so easy to bully? You can refuse to hand him over, but you'll have to bear the consequences." Ning Cheng said as he rose to leave. Chu Yuni immediately stepped in front of him and blocked his way. Speak clearly, he demanded. Consequences? What, are you afraid? Ning Qing chuckled coldly. Chu Yuni was almost angered to death. Why does dealing with this guy feel so much like dealing with Long Fei Yi? Ning Qing, have you forgotten our common goal? Have you forgotten the mission of the Nether and D clans? Chu Yuni had no choice but to use these words. Otherwise, there was no way to continue the conversation. It would have been better if he didn't say anything, because Ning Cheng's eyes flashed with disdain. Ning Qing knew of Chu Yuni's ambitions, but he'd never exposed them. If the Nether clan truly wanted to revive Western Qin, then Ning Cheng was willing to do all he could to help. Even if he had to use up all of the D clan's strength, he wouldn't hesitate. But if the Nether clan was using the imperial family's name to gain benefits, then he, Ning Cheng, would make the Nether clan pay even if he had to die. I haven't, Ning Qing said in a low voice. Then what's the meaning of the three armies joining hands? Who are you planning to give Tianning's throne to? Chu Yuni asked. They'd agreed before that once Emperor Tianhui died, Great General Ning's estate would support the crown prince to ascend the throne. The Empress Dowager would rule from behind the curtains while the Chu clan would take over Western Zhou's 3 eastern prefectures and submit to Tianning. In name, the Chu clan would submit to Tianning, but in reality, it would be the Chu clan who controlled Tianning. They'd use Tianning as their base of operations and search for a successor to the imperial family while expanding their strength. Now the Ning clan was allying with the Duke of Qin and Western Zhou. Chu Yuni had no idea what Ning Cheng was thinking. Do you think I should refuse the Duke of Qin's offer to work with this soldier? Or beat him at his own game? Ning Qing retorted. How are you going to beat him at his own game? Chu Yuni asked anxiously. Don't worry, this soldier's soldiers will definitely arrive before the Duke of Qin's. When the time comes, we'll work together to catch Western Zhou off guard before we deal with the Duke of Qin. Perhaps we can even take over a few cities in the south-central regions. Ning Qing grinned. You're even transferring the cavalry over? Chu Yuni was stunned. Where did Ning Qing get his confidence from without the cavalry? If he did, then Ning Qing might really be able to swallow up a few cities in the south-central regions. Of course. Ning Qing replied. Really? Chu Yuni pressed. Cavalry can't compare to infantry. It'll only take a few days to move south, Ning Qing replied confidently. Aren't you afraid that Northernly, before Chu Yuni could finish, Ning Qing cut him off. If Northernly wanted to send out troops, they would have done so long ago. Why wait until now? Last year's horse plague must have caused heavy losses. He. If that's the case, then that's great. Chu Yuni was finally happy. Where's Gu Beiyue? Ning Qing asked haughtily. Just who told you about Gu Beiyue? Chu Yuni asked. Give Gu Beiyue to this soldier, or else. Ning Qing said as he leaned closer. His voice slowed as he warned, or else this soldier won't move a single soldier to the south. You're threatening the old man. Chu Yuni glared at him. That's the truth to begin with. Ning Qing admitted openly. You. Chu Yuni did his best to suppress his anger. Who told his Nether clan to be weaker than the D clan? Suppressing his temper, he said, Ning Qing, isn't it the same whether we have Gu Beiyue in our hands? He's our trump card. Don't worry, the old man will definitely keep a close eye on him. Since it's the same in our hands, why not let this soldier bring him back to play with? I heard this Dr. Gu has an unusual relationship with Han Yunqing. Ning Qing said. Actually, he'd initiated the mobilization of the 3 armies to force the Chu clan to hand over their hostage, Empress Shui. But now that he knew Gu Beiyue was in the Chu clan's hands, he was even more interested in Gu Beiyue. With Empress Shui, he could threaten Western Zhou's emperor. With Gu Beiyue, he could threaten Han Yunqing. Chu Qingge had said that anyone who could threaten Han Yunqing could also threaten the Duke of Qin, Long Feiyi. Ning Qing didn't need to think twice before switching to Gu Beiyue. Ning Qing, everything's fine. You're not thinking of something else, are you? Chu Yuni asked half-jokingly. This soldier's been thinking it over. Tianning's throne will fall into your Chu clan's hands very soon. My Ning clan should at least have a bargaining chip, right? If your Chu clan takes power and turns against us, how am I supposed to explain things to my brothers? Ning Qing asked. This, hee. Ning Qing, aren't you overthinking things? The Nether and D clans are both loyal to Western Qin's imperial family. The Chu clan's throne is only temporary. If you're still worried, why don't you just usurp the throne? I won't stop you. Chu Yuni was still teasing him. We can even give up the throne, to say nothing of a mere Gu Beiyue. Bring him out, this soldier will take him away today. Ning Qing was getting impatient. Chu Yuni was rendered speechless by his own words. He hesitated, should he give him up or not? Chapter 595. Should he give it up or not? Since Ning Qing had brought it up, there was no way he'd back down. If the Chu clan didn't budge, then Chu Yuni knew Ning Qing well enough to know that he'd never let the matter rest. Ning Qing's words made sense as well. The Chu clan was already 90% certain to take the throne, so the D clan had to have a bargaining chip in their hands to be fair. Chu Yuni understood Ning Qing's loyalty to Western Qin's imperial clan. He believed that as long as the Nether clan complied with this young man's wishes, the D clan wouldn't fall out with the Nether clan. Once they got the throne and took control of Tianning, it wouldn't be difficult to weaken the Ning clan's military power step by step. But Ning Qing's bargaining chip was Gu Beiyue. That really put Chu Yuni in a difficult spot. If Gu Beiyue was gone, who would treat his eye injury? Empress Shui will give it to you, how about it? Chu Yuni asked. Ning Qing didn't even think before he replied, no need. Chu Yuni's eyes flickered with malice. If he found out which spy had told Ning Qing about Gu Beiyue, he'd definitely tear her to pieces. When Chu Yuni didn't reply, Ning Qing grew impatient. Are you going to give it up or not? Old man will think it over for 3 days before giving you an answer, how's that? Chu Yuni was stalling for time, but Ning Qing didn't buy it. Isn't it just a hostage? Is there a need to take so long? Could it be that there's a secret I don't know about? Of course there isn't. Chu Yuni denied quickly. Ning clan head, please wait a moment. Old man will personally escort him over. Ning Qing didn't say a word, but casually sat down on the seat of honor. His domineering air was natural as he waited. Chu Yuni hadn't gone far when General Chu chased after him. Big bro, are you really going to hand over Gu Beiyue? Absolutely not. Ning Qing didn't know that Gu Beiyue was a member of the Shadow Clan, nor did he know that the Ning Clan and Cloud Realm Trade Consortium were descendants of the D Clan. Gu Beiyue didn't know either. In Ning Cheng's eyes, Gu Beiyue was a doctor. In Gu Beiyue's eyes, Ning Cheng was only Great General Ning. If he didn't tell Ning Qing the truth, Ning Cheng would only think that Gu Beiyue was a powerless doctor and wouldn't be on guard. As a result, it was very likely that Gu Beiyue would have the opportunity to escape. However, if he told Ning Qing about Gu Beiyue's identity, things would get troublesome. After all, Ning Qing and Gu Beiyue were both loyal and devoted to the Western Qin imperial clan. As soon as Gu Beiyue told Ning Qing about the Chu clan's ambitions, the consequences would be unthinkable. Chu Yuni had long considered all of General Chu's concerns. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so hesitant. Saying that he'd come personally to escort Gu Beiyue was only an excuse. He needed time to calm down and think things over. He remained silent as he walked towards the secret room. General Chu knitted his brows but didn't ask any questions. He simply followed by his side. Chu Yuni wasn't planning to deal with the current situation first, but the more he thought, the angrier he got. In the end, he couldn't help but ask, just who told Ning Qing about this? Only a handful of people in the Nether clan knew about Gu Beiyue's identity, much less that Gu Beiyue was a prisoner. Who told Ning Qing about this? Which ant? General Chu could only think of that person. Which ant doesn't know about Ning Cheng's identity? Whoever did this must know that Ning Cheng is a descendant of the D clan. Otherwise, they wouldn't have told him. General Chu said seriously. In the eyes of outsiders, Tianning's great general Ning was the mortal enemy of the Chu clan troops. Few people knew about Gu Beiyue's identity, much less Ning Cheng's. Besides a few of their trusted subordinates, there was no one else who knew. Looks like we'll have to get rid of all our subordinates, General Chu said. Chu Yuni was thoroughly vexed. He kept walking without a word, but General Chu quickly chased after him to stop him. Big bro, no matter what, we can't hand Gu Beiyue over to Ning Cheng. There's nothing to think about. Indeed, there was nothing to think about. Once Gu Beiyue fell into Ning Cheng's hands, they'd either lose this hostage for nothing, or the Nether clan would be finished. But, Chu Yuni ignored General Chu. It wasn't clear what he was thinking, but he abruptly turned to leave. But he didn't take more than a few steps before turning back again. His hands were behind his back as he paced back and forth. After a round, he sighed and looked at General Chu anxiously. Big bro, just what are you thinking about? I might as well help you refuse. If he wants a hostage, just give him Empress Shui. General Chu left as soon as he finished speaking, but Chu Yuni was fierce. Come back. Big bro. General Chu didn't understand. You don't understand that brat's temper. There's no one he can't get away with once he names them. Chu Yuni said helplessly. What else can we do if we don't give them to him? Don't forget that the Nether and D clans are on the same boat now. General Chu grew angry as well. Big bro, you're just boosting his morale and destroying our own. General Chu really didn't understand Ning Cheng. Although he knew of Ning Cheng's identity, he'd never interacted with Ning Cheng directly. Because Ning Cheng was the head of the clan, he only discussed matters with Chu Yuni, the clan head. Now that the three armies are working together, he's even sent his cavalry south behind the Duke of Qin's back. Even without the Chu clan, his D clan's military strength and wealth are more than enough to take over Tianning and the three eastern prefectures. If we anger him enough, it'll only take a single thought for him to abandon our Chu clan, Chu Yuni said seriously. He dares. General Chu grew alarmed. He dares. Chu Yuni was certain. The Nether and D clans had joined forces because the Nether clan had sought out the D clan and told them the truth. Thus, the Nether clan had always used the excuse of reviving Western Qin as an excuse to take the lead. The D clan was stronger than the Nether clan, but they were always willing to cooperate with them. But if the Nether clan couldn't take over the three eastern prefectures and Tianning's throne this time, then Ning Cheng's temper would make him fight for control. After a long time, Chu Yuni finally said, endure. Only by enduring would the Nether clan have a chance. But General Chu trailed off. Before he could finish, Chu Yuni slapped his right eye, causing blood to spurt out from between his fingers. Big bro. General Chu grew alarmed. Chu Yuni had destroyed his own eye. There was still hope for a cure, but now his eye was completely ruined. If it can protect and revive my Nether clan, then it's all worth it to destroy this eye. Chu Yuni's voice rose in excitement. If his eye was ruined, then what was the point of keeping Gu Beiyue? Before handing him over to Ning Cheng, he'd destroy him first. Seeing his brother's bleeding eye, General Chu grit his teeth and steeled his heart. Big bro, if anyone dares to touch your position as clan head in the future, I'll be the first to show them no mercy. Who else but General Chu himself could touch the position of clan head? Chu Yuni's eye was ruined, so General Chu more or less had the same goal. But if he still wanted to fight for the position after seeing his brother like this, how could he convince the masses? Chu Yuni's words were meant for General Chu's ears as well. Those were the exact words he was waiting for. Without a word, he patted General Chu on the shoulder and strode into the secret room. In the secret chamber, it was dark. He was dressed in white robes and sitting by the table, reading a medical book. Both of his hands and feet were chained, and under his white shirt, his shoulders and calves were wrapped in thick gauze. His injuries had indeed not healed. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but that he really couldn't. Chu Yuni's doctor had been right. His body was too weak, and his injuries were too severe. Even the best medicine wouldn't heal him. Even if his wounds healed, he wouldn't be able to escape the Chu clan's archers. Therefore, he could only resort to this plan and choose to waste time and recuperate. If his wounds were unhealed, Chu Yuni could only continue to supply him with medicine. Half of the ingredients he'd asked for were for healing wounds, while the other half were for nourishing the body. Based on his estimations of the situation in the east, Empress Shui had been kidnapped and Emperor Tianhui was in critical condition. No matter what, the war wouldn't begin until the end of the year. He was Chu Yuni's trump card, so he wouldn't threaten Long Fei Yi until the very last moment. He figured that he still had half a month's time. When he heard Chu Yuni enter, he glanced at him before returning his attention to his medical book. Chu Yuni often came to ask about his condition, so he was already used to it. But soon enough, he caught the scent of blood. He looked up and saw that Chu Yuni's eyes were bleeding. If Chu Yuni's eyes were ruined, then... Alarmed, he sprang to his feet. Unfortunately, it was too late. Chu Yuni suddenly drew close and grabbed his hands. "I can heal your eyes right away," he said, knowing that things had taken a turn for the worse. But Chu Yuni only laughed coldly. "There's no need." His eyes turned cold as he raised his hands to flee. Unfortunately, his hands and feet were chained up, making it impossible for him to get far. Soon enough, General Chu entered as well, an arrow in hand aimed at his heart. He leaned against the wall and didn't struggle, but said, "If you want to kill me, at least give me a reason." "Kill you? He. Chu Yuni laughed out loud as he grabbed Gu Beiyue by the neck with his elbow. Then he sent a vicious fist crashing into Gu Beiyue's dantian. "Heh!" Gu Beiyue groaned before spitting up a mouthful of blood. For the first time in his life, he revealed a stunned expression. He gaped, unable to believe what had just happened to him. But the pain in his dantian reminded him that this was all real. Chu Yuni's fist had clotted his dantian with blood, destroying his internal energy and martial arts. In that instant, the scenes of his childhood practicing martial arts flooded into his mind. He saw the loving smiles of his parents, heard the patient encouragement of his grandfather, and saw the image of himself as a child training bitterly, one move after another. Gone, everything was gone with Chu Yuni's fist. His internal energy was gone, and so was his shadow arts. How was he supposed to complete the Shadow Clan's mission? How was he supposed to protect his beloved? Gone, everything was gone, how was he supposed to stay calm? He stood there in a daze until Chu Yuni undid his chains. Slowly, he recovered his wits and asked, "Why?" "Beiyue, don't blame me." Chu Yuni intoned. "Why?" Gu Beiyue raged. "You might as well kill me. Someone specifically wants you. My nether clan doesn't have the power to keep you here." Chu Yuni naturally wouldn't expose Ning Cheng's identity. He trusted that Ning Cheng wouldn't reveal himself either. By the time Chu Yuni finished treating his eye injury and escorted Gu Beiyue to the guest hall, Ning Cheng was already impatient. Chapter 596. Ning Cheng was already impatient. He was about to leave when Chu Yuni personally escorted a white-robed man over. This was Ning Cheng's first time seeing Gu Beiyue, so he didn't have a deep impression of the man. His haughty gaze swept over Gu Beiyue and noticed the wounds on Gu Beiyue's shoulder and leg, but he didn't think much of it. He guessed that the Chu clan must have injured him when they captured him. Gu Beiyue's head was bowed as if all the strength had been sucked out of his body. He stood dejectedly, his body so weak that it looked like he could collapse at any moment. A famous doctor? Ning Cheng was disdainful. He couldn't tell how Han Yunqing could be on good terms with someone like that. Han Yunqing had caught Long Fei Ye's eye, so she must be extraordinary. But anyone who could be friends with her had to be extraordinary as well, right? This Gu Beiyue in front of him didn't look like a doctor at all. He looked more like a frail scholar. "I've brought the man you wanted," Chu Yuni said mildly, not revealing any details. Ning Cheng naturally understood. He wore a mask because he didn't want to reveal his identity, so he nodded without a word. He personally grabbed Gu Beiyue by the collar and prepared to drag him out. But Gu Beiyue suddenly raised a hand and shoved Ning Cheng aside. "I can walk on my own." His voice was low and filled with emotion. There was no trace of his usual calm. Ning Cheng stared at his hand in disbelief. "Keep up, or else I'll make you roll out of here," he said coldly. So speaking, he strode out the door. Gu Beiyue glanced back at Chu Yuni, his gaze sharp enough to kill. Chu Yuni subconsciously backed away, wondering if his actions today had been right or wrong. Gu Beiyue's right hand hung by his side. His shoulder had been pierced through, so he couldn't raise it. He used his left hand to clutch at his dantian, which still hurt like a knife, and followed Ning Cheng step by step. The most urgent thing for him now was to lie down and rest and avoid strenuous exercise. However, he stubbornly continued to walk faster and faster. He quickly caught up with Ning Cheng and even surpassed Ning Cheng. He didn't want to be crippled, and he wasn't crippled yet. His life was still here, the Shadow Clan's mission was still here, and Gu Beiyue's promise was still here. Ning Cheng smiled contemptuously as he looked at the frail figure who had overtaken him. He despised the bones of this kind of weak scholar the most. This kind of bones were not hard, they were just cheap. Was he trying to show off? How long could he show off? Was walking a few steps already considered an expert? What a joke! If it wasn't for the fact that it could threaten Han Yunqing, Ning Cheng wouldn't waste his time on such a useless thing. "Someone come, take him back and guard him strictly. Without this general's orders, no one is allowed to come near," Ning Cheng ordered coldly. A retainer immediately appeared. Just as Gu Beiyue was about to turn to speak with Ning Cheng, the retainer viciously struck Gu Beiyue's neck with his palm. Gu Beiyue couldn't hold on any longer and fainted. Ning Cheng took Gu Beiyue away, but it was unclear whether he'd give Gu Beiyue a chance to talk to him. As Chu Yuni saw it, Ning Cheng's temper wouldn't allow him to waste words with Gu Beiyue. Even if the two of them did talk, they wouldn't reveal their identities due to their own misgivings. After watching Ning Cheng leave, Chu Yuni exhaled a long breath. All he needed to do now was wait for Ning Cheng's cavalry to arrive and join forces with the Chu clan troops to attack the Western Zhou army. Once Emperor Tianhui breathed his last breath, which aunt would help the crown prince seize the throne. Without the Ning clan's interference and Chu Tianin's preparations in Western Liang, which aunt would only need a single night to help the crown prince take the throne. "We have to live in Western Liang before the new year," he said to General Chu. Before General Chu could reply, a soldier rushed over. To reply the general, Western Zhou has sent an envoy. He's right by the city gates and says he has important matters to discuss. Chu Yuni and General Chu exchanged glances. The two armies had been at loggerheads for a long time. What was Western Zhou sending an envoy to talk about now? It was impossible for them to make peace. Could it be something to do with Empress Shui? Very soon, General Chu met with the envoy while Chu Yuni sat on one side to listen. Seeing that the room was full of servants, the Western Zhou envoy signaled General Chu with his eyes, and General Chu dismissed everyone. "If you have something to say, you can say it now," General Chu said bluntly. He didn't even let the envoy sit. Cloud Realm Continent's customs dictated that envoys should be treated with courtesy instead of killing them. The Western Zhou envoy already despised the Chu clan rebels, but General Chu's lack of manners only added to his disdain. Loftily, he replied, "General Chu, this envoy came today to pass on 2 words from His Majesty. First, if General Chu surrenders, His Majesty will treat you leniently on account of your years of hard work defending the borders. If..." Before the Western Zhou envoy could finish his sentence, General Chu interrupted coldly, "Go back and tell Emperor Kongcheng that his words are nonsense." Furious, the envoy added, "Second, His Majesty said that if the Chu clan doesn't want to expose the driving arrow arts, release Empress Shui immediately. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences." That was the true purpose of Western Zhou's envoy. Back at Thousand Buddha Cave, the Chu clan had exposed the driving arrow arts, a secret art of the Nether clan. Long Fei Yi had long made it known to all of Cloud Realm Continent. Emperor Tianhui understood the situation at Thousand Buddha Cave and knew that the Chu clan were descendants of the Nether clan. As soon as the Western Zhou envoy finished speaking, the large guest hall fell silent. At first, the envoy had raised his chin in a threatening manner. However, as the atmosphere in the room grew quieter and quieter, the Western Zhou envoy felt an inexplicable sense of dread. He saw General Chu's gloomy face and inadvertently glanced back, only to see Chu Yunyi's icy expression. What do they mean? General Chu, His Majesty. His Majesty said that victory or defeat will depend on your own skills. As long as you release Empress Shui, he'll pretend he doesn't know anything about the Nether clan. The envoy's tone softened. But General Chu and Chu Yunyi only looked at him coldly without a word. Growing more and more fearful, the envoy quickly bowed with hands clasped in front. "General Chu, please think it over." As he spoke, he turned around and was about to leave. Unfortunately, before he could leave the guest hall, a sharp arrow instantly pierced through his heart from behind. Envoys were forbidden to be killed in battle. This was an unwritten rule. No matter how big the battlefield, no one had ever killed an envoy before. When news of the Chu clan killing the Western Zhou envoy spread, all of Cloud Realm Continent was stunned. Western Zhou's emperor flew into a rage. What a Chu clan! What a Nether clan! If Zhen doesn't slaughter your entire clan, Zhen will. Zhen will. The emperor was so angry that he couldn't speak. He swept a table full of memorials, causing all of the civil and military officials to kneel on the ground, too afraid to speak. In the end, he slapped the table and rose to his feet. "Someone come, reveal the Chu clan's secret to the public." His words alarmed the entire court. What kind of secret does the Chu clan have? Does that mean His Majesty is giving up on Empress Shui? Unexpectedly, the Chu clan beat him to it before news of the Western Qin imperial clan spread to the world. They revealed the fact that the Chu clan was one of the 7 noble families, the Nether clan, and the fact that the Western Qin imperial clan was still alive. They even declared that the Chu clan was looking for the imperial orphan and reviving Western Qin as their own mission. They had invited all the heroes of the world to join them in their grand scheme. Once the news spread, no one talked about the assassination of the envoy anymore. This was because the matter of killing an envoy was not even worth mentioning in the face of such a huge matter. The news caused a huge earthquake in Cloud Realm Continent. Whether it was the major powers or the common people, everyone was paying attention. Everyone's views of the Chu clan were completely overturned. Of course, the main focus wasn't on the Nether clan, but the orphan of the Western Qin imperial clan. Just who were the descendants of the Western Qin imperial clan, and where were they? It had to be said that the Chu clan's actions had dealt a fatal blow to Emperor Kongcheng. He had a hold on the enemy's secret, but it was now useless. However, the angriest person in the world wasn't Emperor Kongcheng, but the Duke of Qin, Long Fei Yi. For the sake of hiding the truth, he'd spent so much effort saving Mute Granny and dealing with Gu. In the end, he'd almost fallen out with Han Yunqing. But now the Chu clan had announced the news to the world and let everyone know that there were still descendants of the Western Qin imperial clan. While Han Yunqing and the rest were discussing the matter, Long Fei Ye's icy face was so gloomy that it looked like water could drip from it. They'd long known that the Chu clan was part of the Nether clan, but the fact that there was an orphan of the Western Qin imperial clan left Han Yunqing and the rest stunned. In that case, it's very likely that the gentleman from the Shadow clan knows about the matter too. He's been searching for the imperial orphan all this time, Han Yunqing mused. Her first thought was that gentleman. If she hadn't confirmed the origins of her birth parents, she would have been scared out of her wits by the news. After all, she was the prime suspect. So what if she's an imperial orphan? No matter how glorious the great Qin dynasty was, that's all in the past. If the Chu clan really wants to find the imperial orphan, they'll kill her for good. Gu said disdainfully. The usually talkative Chu Shifeng and Tang Li were both very quiet this time. Occasionally, they would shoot glances at the Duke of Qin, whose ghastly expression only made them more flustered. They were well aware of Mute Granny's death and the Duke of Qin's suspicions about Han Yunqing's origins. But they had no idea what Mute Granny had said to the Duke of Qin before she died. Now that the Nether clan's Chu clan had exposed the truth, they had no choice but to reconsider Han Yunqing's origins. If this woman really was the orphan of Western Qin's imperial clan, then wouldn't the Duke of Qin, thinking up to here, Tang Li's heart pounded in his chest. He didn't dare to look at the Duke of Qin again, while Chu Shifeng was even more nervous. He simply lowered his head, afraid that he'd reveal any clues to the crowd. Imperial clan or not, the Chu clan has staked everything on this one throw, Han Yunqing said seriously. When Long Fei Yi didn't speak, she tilted her head and asked, Long Fei Yi, what do you think? Long Fei Yi didn't answer her, but rose to his feet and said coldly to Chu Shifeng, pass down orders. Tomorrow at noon, we'll set out. He said the words set out, very softly, as if he didn't care at all. But everyone present was stunned, because this was a military order. This meant that Cloud Realm Continent's biggest war since the fall of the Great Qin dynasty was about to begin. Long Fei Yi walked out as soon as he finished speaking. Han Yunqing quickly chased after him. This guy, something's not right. What's wrong? Chapter 597. Han Yunqing chased after him and walked alongside Long Fei Yi. Long Fei Yi knew she was beside him, but he remained silent. Once they entered the garden, Han Yunqing asked, What's wrong? I'm thinking about something, Long Fei Yi said indifferently. Is there anything else you can't figure out? Han Yunqing asked curiously. Long Fei Yi, Emperor Kong Cheng, and Great General Ning had agreed to mobilize the three armies on the 15th day of the month. It was only the 10th day of the month. In other words, according to the original plan, they would have to wait another 5 days before they could mobilize their troops to encircle the Chu clan. However, in order to guard against Great General Ning, Long Fei Yi had made another private appointment with Emperor Kong Cheng. Today was the day. No matter what news the Chu clan spread, it wouldn't have much of an impact on today's battle. After all, once the Chu clan revealed their identity as a Nether, it would be impossible for them to gain the support of any major power in a short period of time. Apart from this, what else could possibly affect Long Fei Ye's mood? Even when it came to something as important as war, he rarely frowned. Long Fei Yi didn't say anything. Han Yunqing asked again, Is it about the Western Qin imperial clan? Long Fei Yi didn't deny it. Apart from the Nether and D clans, there are also the Shadow and Wind clans. The Shadow clan is quite powerful, but I don't know much about the Wind clan, Han Yunqing said. These nobles might not be truly loyal to the imperial clan, but they would definitely support the Nether clan's banner. If this battle could be concluded in a short period of time, there wouldn't be much of an impact. However, once the battle dragged on, there would be many uncontrollable factors. After all, the Shadow and Wind clans were far more powerful than they could estimate. Moreover, apart from the 7 noble families, there were many other powers that wanted to use the banner of the Western Qin imperial clan. Han Yunqing thought to herself. Unfortunately, she didn't know that Long Feiyi wasn't worried about these things. No matter how troublesome these matters were, Long Feiyi could deal with them calmly. The one he was worried about was her. He was worried that once this woman's background was found out, how much danger would she have to face? The danger of the situation, the danger of the human heart. He was even more worried that once this woman knew that he was her enemy, would she still look at him like before? Han Yunqing, what should this prince do with you? This king wants to hide you away forever. Han Yunqing carefully analyzed the situation, but Long Feiyi wasn't listening. After a long silence, he looked seriously at Han Yunqing and said, Yunshi, Yunshi. As soon as she said that, Han Yunqing's heart skipped a beat, and she almost missed a beat. After, Your Highness, she had always called him by his full name. As for him, he had never changed the way he addressed her since the day they got married. Well, except when he bullied her last time. She didn't know if there was still any distance between them, or how many steps there were left. But hearing this intimate form of address made her feel that they were closer again, much, much closer. Last time, her mind had been in such a state of confusion that she couldn't remember, much less feel the distance between them. This time, she felt it. It was like a pair of lovers who'd been in love for a long time, or a married couple who'd been married for a long time. Her heart was filled with joy, happiness, and elation. Speak, she said with a smile. Say, do you think the orphan of Western Qin's imperial clan has the heart to revive Western Qin? Long Feiyi asked seriously. Han Yunqing was too immersed in happiness to consider such a question. Moreover, it didn't have much to do with her. She answered with whatever she thought. Of course they do. A complicated look flickered past Long Feiyi's eyes before he asked, why would they? Why not? If the Nether and D clans had such ambitions, to say nothing of the imperial clan. Back then, the Great Qin's internal strife was caused by the feud between the Eastern and Western Qin's imperial clans. Whether it was the clan's hatred or the clan's ambitions, they couldn't be pacified by time. Because these things are rooted in people's hearts. As Han Yunqing spoke, she sighed faintly. Time can't enter people's hearts. People will die, but their hearts won't. Long Feiyi seemed to want to refute, but he didn't say anything in the end. What could he use to refute Han Yunqing? Hadn't he been living in hatred and ambition since he was young? The East Qin clansmen had all died, but their hearts hadn't, and they'd been passed down from generation to generation. All of their thoughts were placed on his shoulders, forcing him to move forward step by step. He wanted revenge himself, so what could he use to blame others for their hatred? Han Yunqing, was it fate that this prince met you? Or a tribulation? No matter if it was fate or tribulation, this prince didn't acknowledge it. What's wrong with you? Han Yunqing's curiosity pulled Long Feiyi's gaze back. He said faintly, nothing. Let's go, prepare to go to the battlefield. Go to the battlefield? Han Yunqing was stunned. You want to personally go to the battlefield? You don't want to go? Long Feiyi arched a brow. I do. Han Yunqing's excitement was immediately ignited. Prepare your poison needles, your lordship will take you to have fun. Long Feiyi's eyes flashed with a sinister light. If the Chu clan dared to play so big, then he'd accompany them to the end. The Chu clan's mission was to find the Western Qin imperial heir, right? He'd take the last princess of Western Qin with him and kill his way over. It was noon, and General Chu's guards were changing shifts as usual. Chu Yuni and General Chu were still waiting for news from Ningcheng in the city when the drums suddenly sounded. Boom! 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 Sometimes it was hurried, sometimes it was slow, but the sound was earth-shattering. This was the sound of the enemy's drums. Could it be that Western Zhou had sent out its troops? Both Chu Yuni and General Chu were surprised, but they remained calm. With 4 red-coat cannons in hand and the Chu clan's elite archers, they didn't fear Western Zhou's troops at all. Emperor Kong Cheng's finally decided to give up on Empress Shui. Chu Yuni mocked. So what if the drums shake the heavens? He, this general would like to see if their drums are louder, or my cannons. General Chu was very confident. They were only waiting for Ning Cheng's cavalry to arrive to guard against the Duke of Qin's troops heading north. If it was just Western Zhou's troops, they would have won long ago. Before the red-coat cannons arrived, they were evenly matched with Western Zhou. Now that they had the help of the red-coat cannons and the advantage of defending the city, defeating Western Zhou's troops was a piece of cake. Big brother, let's go. Come with me to the city gates to watch the battle. General Chu was very bold as he strode out the door. But they'd hardly reached the gates when a soldier came forward to report. General. Things are bad. The soldier's face was pale as he gasped for breath. As soon as he reached General Chu, he fell to his knees. What's bad? Why are you making such a fuss over nothing? General Chu asked unhappily. The soldier only trembled. Tianning's Duke of Qin, he couldn't finish his sentence, so General Chu grew anxious at the mention of Duke of Qin. He grabbed the soldier by the collar and demanded, why did the Duke of Qin come? Hurry and speak. The Duke of Qin is personally leading the expedition. He's leading the expedition himself. The soldier shouted. General Chu's grip went limp, and the soldier fell to the ground. Leading the expedition himself. Long Fei Yi is leading the expedition himself. Chu Yuni muttered to himself in surprise. How could that be? It wasn't time for the 3 armies to join forces yet. Ning Cheng said he'd come early, but Ning Cheng's cavalry troops hadn't arrived yet. Long Fei Yi was leading the expedition himself. What did he have to lead the expedition himself? Could it be that his soldiers had arrived earlier than Ning Cheng? Could it be that Ning Cheng wasn't able to fool Long Fei Yi, but had been fooled by Long Fei Yi instead? General Chu rushed to the top of the city walls, only to see a group of aggressive cavalry approaching. There were about 5,000 of them, all of them dressed in black. They were still some distance away, so General Chu couldn't see Long Fei Yi in person. All he could see was the 100 to 200 men in front of the cavalry, all of them riding red-haired steeds. The sight of the hundreds of horses galloping together was as striking as a raging inferno. He couldn't see their leader, but he could see the flag fluttering in the wind. It was a flag with white characters on a black background. It represented Tianning's troops, and a large Qin character was emblazoned on its surface. The character fluttered in the wind as if it had a life of its own, brimming with the strength of iron and blood. At this instant, General Chu even had the misconception that this group of ferocious elite soldiers before him was the army of the East Qin Empire of the former Grand Qin Empire. After all, the former Great Qin Empire's East Qin Imperial Clan's flag had white characters on a black background, while the Western Qin Imperial Clan's flag had black characters on a white background. Both sides had the same Qin character on their flags. Qin was an extremely revered character in Cloud Realm continent. When Tianning's late emperor bestowed the title Qin on Long Fei Yi, it had caused all sorts of criticism in Cloud Realm continent, but the late emperor still insisted on using the character. As for the reason behind it, most people believe that it was because the late emperor had high hopes for the Duke of Qin. Although Long Fei Yi used Qin as his title, this was the first time the character had appeared on a military flag since the fall of the Great Qin Empire. General Chu quickly recovered his wits. He knew that this Qin character really did represent Tianning's Duke of Qin's personal expedition. Most likely, Long Fei Yi was riding at the front of this troop of elite troops. 5,000 elite troops didn't count for much in General Chu's eyes, but this was Long Fei Yi's personal army. He had no choice but to be cautious and fearful. Chu Yuni quickly arrived and saw the aggressive troops before him. His expression grew difficult as he asked, "Should we defend or attack?" If they defended, they would guard the city gates and kill the enemy from above. If they attacked, they would open the gates and attack before the enemy arrived. There were pros and cons to defending, and pros and cons to attacking. General Chu had plenty of battle experience and was decisive in all sorts of situations. He never hesitated, because he knew that any hesitation would damage the troops' morale. But this time, he had no choice but to consider carefully. That was because he was facing Long Fei Yi, a man who'd never participated in battle before. "What are you hesitating for?" Chu Yuni asked. "Are you afraid of this brat who's never been on the battlefield before? A single man's strength is invincible, but an entire army? Not necessarily. Be careful that you don't destroy your own army's morale." Chu Yuni was right. General Chu had experienced hundreds of battles, so he had no reason to fear Long Fei Yi. Long Fei Yi had never led troops before, much less fought in battle. In front of General Chu, he was nothing more than a new recruit. Still, General Chu hesitated. No one's ever fought him on the battlefield before. He muttered. As the elite troops drew closer and closer, General Chu was about to lose the initiative. He steeled his heart and prepared to give orders when another soldier rushed over. "General, something's happened. Something big's happened." Chapter 598. Something big happened. Something big was right before their eyes, so what else could happen? General Chu loathed these words and kicked the soldier as soon as he knelt. "What are you muttering about? If this isn't big enough, I'll kill you as a sacrifice to the flag." The matter was so serious that the soldier couldn't care less about his fear. He hurriedly reported, "General, all of Western Zhou's forces have been concentrated in the north to attack Yuyuan County. The Duke of Qin has deployed 2 armies from the central and southern regions to attack Yaoshui County. Both the north and south sides have already started fighting." Hearing this, General Chu felt like he'd suffered a heavy blow. He staggered back a few steps before leaning against the city walls to steady himself. His face was completely white, while Chu Yuni was gaping at the side. The 3 armies had joined forces, 3 armies had joined forces. So this was the real deal. Both he and Ning Cheng had been tricked by Long Fei Yi. Western Zhou's 3 eastern prefectures all bordered Tianing to the east. From north to south, they were Yuyuan Prefecture, Fenglin Prefecture, and Yaoshui Prefecture. North of the northernmost Yuyuan Prefecture was the 3-way battlefield, while the southernmost Yaoshui Prefecture bordered the central and southern regions. General Chu personally oversaw Fenglin Prefecture in the middle, which was also the main battlefield against Western Zhou. Thus, all of the Chu clan's elite troops were gathered here, making the defenses of the 2 southern prefectures less secure. Unexpectedly, Long Fei had colluded with Western Zhou and gathered their forces to attack the northernmost Yuyuan Prefecture, while the central and southern armies attacked the southernmost Yaoshui Prefecture. Meanwhile, Long Fei himself only used 5,000 elite troops to attack Fenglin Prefecture. This was the real deal. Long Fei Yi hadn't considered Ning Cheng at all. He suspects Ning Cheng. How could he? Chu Yuni couldn't believe it. General Chu had no time to care whether Long Fei Yi really suspected Ning Cheng or had other plans. Right now, he had to think of a way to break out of Long Fei Yi's trap. He'd already decided to open the city gates for battle, but now he had to be even more cautious. Otherwise, the Chu clan troops would lose everything. All archers on standby. Everyone else, guard the city walls. After he gave the order, he turned and hurriedly went down the city walls to gather all the strategists and enter the general's tent. The general's tent was set up on the lower right side of the city gate. Not long after, all the strategists in the Chu family's army arrived. After learning about the military situation in the 2 southern counties, they were all shocked and in disbelief. On General Chu's desk was a detailed map of the 3 eastern prefectures of western Zhou. He rested his hands on the map and frowned, deep in thought. This was a trap. A very beautiful setup. Gathering the forces of western Zhou to deal with Yuyuan County and the forces of the south to deal with Yaoshui County, this was bullying with numbers, a battle that was guaranteed to be won. As for using 5,000 elite troops to deal with Fenglin Prefecture, this was both a restraint and a threat. If General Chu moved his troops north or south, then Fenglin Prefecture would be threatened. If he didn't move his troops north or south, then Yuyuan and Yaoshui prefectures would be lost. This joint action of the 3 armies directly tied down General Chu's limited military strength. It could be said that the Chu clan had already lost 2 cities before the battle even began. Who would have thought that Tianning's Duke of Qin, who had never led troops into battle before, would be able to set up such a beautiful trap on his first try? Aside from their shock, the strategists all secretly admired him. If Long Feiyi hadn't set up this trap for the Chu clan, General Chu would have praised Long Feiyi from the bottom of his heart. Unfortunately, this trap was set up for the Chu clan troops. General Chu stared at the map of the 3 eastern prefectures, feeling more and more indignant and irritable. He'd been at odds with western Zhou for so long, but now he'd fallen at Long Feiyi's hands. How could he accept this? After a while, none of the strategists spoke up. General Chu raised his head and scolded them angrily. What are you all spacing out for? This general didn't raise you to be rice buckets. Say something. Silence fell upon the crowd at his words. Who could make a decision in a situation like this? Actually, everyone knew that there was only one way to deal with Long Feiyi's trap: give up 2 cities and concentrate their forces on one. But no one dared to say it aloud. With General Chu's intelligence and experience in battle, he should have known the answer long ago. He just didn't want to face it. Chu Yuni's eyes flickered with a complicated expression as he hesitated to speak. He was inferior to General Chu when it came to leading troops into battle and arranging formations, so it was useless for him to say more. After some hesitation, he left the room. No matter what General Chu decided, he had to contact Ning Cheng as soon as possible. Only Ning Cheng could save them now. Seeing Chu Yuni leave, General Chu sobered up. He clenched his fists and pounded the table a few times. Despite his reluctance, he had to make up his mind. Loudly, he said, "Great General Ning will support our Nether clan. Tell me, which city should we protect?" Hearing this, the strategists were stunned once more. They had no idea about the relationship between Great General Ning and the Di clan, much less that Ning Cheng had long been in cahoots with the Chu clan. They were stunned that Tianning's Great General Ning would switch sides at a time like this. Of course, none of them were idiots. After hearing the news and recalling the Duke of Qin's plans, they began to harbor suspicions. Most likely, the Duke of Qin had moved his troops ahead of time to surround the 3 eastern prefectures with western Zhou's troops because he suspected Great General Ning long ago. "General, when did this happen? Why didn't you tell us?" one of the strategists asked in dissatisfaction. General Chu should have told everyone about such an important matter beforehand so they could prepare for it. After all of them had placed their bets on Empress Shui. General Chu glared at them. Is this the time to discuss such things? This general is asking you a question. Which city do you want to protect? General Chu had assumed that Ning Cheng's cavalry would arrive before Long Feiyi's main army. He assumed that the Chu clan troops and Long Feiyi's cavalry would be able to beat western Zhou to a pulp within a few days. Once Long Feiyi's troops arrived, they'd have a showdown with Long Feiyi's troops. No matter what, they wouldn't lose even if the battle ended in a draw. But Long Feiyi had thrown all of this into disarray. For the sake of safety, this one suggests that we concentrate all of our troops to protect Yuyuan Prefecture. First of all, our army has fought with the Western Zhou army many times and is familiar with their fighting style, so it will not be easy for us to be ambushed. Second, Yuyuan County is the closest to the three-way battlefield. As long as the cavalry battalion arrives, we will be able to join forces with the cavalry battalion in the shortest time possible and lead our army south. No, no. Now that the Duke of Qin's troops are at our gates, there's no reason for us to abandon Fenglin Prefecture and head north. We have to defend our prefecture. Otherwise, once our morale is damaged, it'll be hard to recover. As this one sees it, why don't we give up the three eastern prefectures and kill our way into Tianing? As long as Great General Ning's troops don't stop us, what's wrong with giving up the three prefectures? Everyone had their own ideas and reasons. General Chu listened to their opinions as he mulled them over. But he didn't have much time to think before a soldier hurried over. Reporting. General, Tianing's Duke of Qin has led his troops to the city gates. He wants to challenge you to a duel. A duel? Almost everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air. They all turned to look at General Chu, only to see that his face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Long Fei Yi, you've gone too far. General Chu's fist pounded the table so many times that it was about to topple over. On Cloud Realm Continent's battlefields, only at the very end of a duel between two armies would a duel between the commanding generals. In order to end the battle quickly, the winning side would give the losing side a chance to duel their commanding general. If the general of the victorious side won, the other side would surrender. If the general of the victorious side lost, the other side would have 3 days to flee. Now the two armies hadn't even crossed swords yet, but Long Fei Yi wanted to challenge him to a duel. This was a naked insult to him. This was Long Fei Yi's first time leading troops into battle. It wasn't that he didn't know the rules, but that he was here to break them. Abominable. Abominable. General Chu paced back and forth. Although he was furious, he still couldn't decide which city to protect. At this moment, Chu Yuni hurried over and said, Ning Cheng's troops will need at least 3 days to reach Yuyuan City. 3 days, Yuyuan City won't be able to hold out for 3 days, someone said with certainty. General, since the Duke of Qin wants to challenge us, why don't we think of a way to stall for time, someone else suggested. General Chu had the same idea. He wouldn't challenge Long Fei Yi to a duel because he'd lose without a doubt. He had to think of a way to stall for time. No matter who won or lost, as long as they could stall for 3 days, they'd have a chance to turn things around. While General Chu was still hesitating, Chu Yuni whispered 3 words by his ear. Han Yunqing. General Chu knitted his brows, while Chu Yuni's eyes flashed with a cold smile. You'll know once you get to the top of the city walls. General Chu didn't delay, but quickly climbed the walls. This time, he had a clear view of Long Fei's elite troops from his perch on the city walls. 5,000 cavalrymen lined up 1,000 meters below the city walls in an orderly fashion. Although there were only 5,000 of them, they were no less imposing than an army of 50,000. Their leader was Long Fei Yi, but he was holding a woman in his arms. That woman was none other than Qin Wangfei, Han Yunqing. General Chu couldn't help but shake his head. A femme fatale. In the history of Cloud Realm Continent's wars, from the Great Qin Empire to the Three Kingdoms, none of the generals had ever brought a woman to battle, much less a general riding on the same horse with a woman. After all, women were nothing more than clothes to men and burdens to soldiers. But Long Fei Yi had actually brought a woman to the battlefield for the first time. It was laughably frivolous. Long Fei Yi had one arm around Han Yunqing's waist while the other held his sword. He sat atop his tall horse, commanding 5,000 elite troops. He wasn't wearing armor or battle robes, but black robes that made him look noble and domineering. He didn't make a sound, nor did he get angry, but his aura was enough to intimidate the entire battlefield. Han Yunqing was also dressed in black robes. Even though she was leaning against Long Fei Yi's chest, she still looked valiant and valiant. She faced the battlefield as if she was a patient, her eyes cold and solemn. This woman wasn't beautiful when she was serious, but she still commanded respect from others. No one dared to offend her. When she saw General Chu appear on the city walls, she said in a low voice, "He's here." Long Fei pointed his sword at the top of the city walls and asked coldly, "General Chu, still not accepting the challenge?" Chapter 599. General Chu was still fuming at Long Fei's provocation. Fortunately, Chu Yuni was by his side. Chu Yuni had been provoked by Long Fei in the past as well, but he was an outsider when it came to matters of the battlefield. In the end, he was a bit more clear-headed than General Chu. General Chu was about to unsheath his sword when Chu Yuni pressed down on his hand. Remember, Han Yunqing is Long Fei's weak spot. You can't go wrong with that woman. General Chu steadied his emotions and calmed down. He shouted, "Duke of Qin, our two armies haven't even fought yet, so where's the talk of a challenge? If you don't know the rules of the battlefield, then scram early. Don't make a fool of yourself. Victory and defeat have already been decided, so why bother fighting? Your lordship will take 3 of your prefectures in a single day." Long Fei said. "Ha!" General Chu guffawed. If it were Yuyun and Yaoshui prefectures, then it was possible that they'd fall in a single day. But Fenglin Prefecture had the main force of his Chu clan troops, a full 50,000 strong army, as well as the Nether clan's 3,000 strong archers. Long Fei only had 5,000 troops, so where did he get the nerve to joke like that, 5,000 against my 50,000? He, this old man understands now. So the Duke of Qin's claim of victory and defeat is to admit defeat, General Chu guffawed. Long Fei didn't waste words. He raised his sword and prepared to attack. "Hold it." General Chu quickly stopped him. No matter what, he had to buy time for Yuyun and Yaoshui. "Surrender." Long Fei was a man of few words, but he could always infuriate General Chu with 1 or 2 words. General Chu couldn't bear it any longer. "Fine, this general accepts the challenge. But I have one condition." "Speak." Long Fei said coldly. "Before victory is decided, Yuyun and Yaoshui must cease fighting." That was General Chu's ultimate goal. The Serene Cloud Prefecture and Yaoshui Prefecture were the prefectures next to Fenglin. As long as Long Fei sent an eagle message over, he would be able to receive the news very quickly. Long Fei's lips curled into a sneer. "General Chu, do you mean that if I lose, I'll have to pay with these 2 counties?" If Long Fei didn't have a purpose, why would he waste time talking nonsense with General Chu? The reason he issued the challenge was to provoke General Chu into staying in Fenglin Prefecture. Once General Chu stayed in Fenglin Prefecture, with the strength of his 2 armies, it would be easy for them to take down the weakly defended Yuyun and Yaoshui prefectures in a day. However, if General Chu gave up on Fenglin Prefecture and went north or south to reinforce, there would be no way to end this battle quickly. And if he couldn't end this battle quickly, he would have to face Great General Ning's army. Presumably, Ning Cheng had already received the news and was rushing to the battlefield. General Chu had expected that Long Fei would raise this condition, so he agreed without hesitation. "Good. If I lose, Yuyun and Yaoshui commanderies will be yours." "How about it?" Long Fei's lips curled into a sneer. He and General Chu would have a showdown within 2 hours. Yuyun and Yaoshui commanderies could afford to wait for 2 hours. If he could take them without losing a single soldier, why wouldn't he? "It looks like General Chu is quite confident in your archery skills." He was in a good mood and rarely spoke so much. "So your Highness Duke of Qin agrees?" General Chu asked seriously. "This prince agrees," Long Fei replied without hesitation. "Good. Then please stop the battle in Yuyun and Yaoshui commanderies," General Chu hurriedly requested. Long Fei let go of Han Yunqing and leapt off his horse, landing on the empty battlefield between the 5,000 elite soldiers and Fenglin Prefecture's gates. His black cloak fluttered in the wind as he stood proudly with one hand behind his back and the other wielding his sword. His voice was as cold as ice, shocking both armies. "General Chu, if you accept my challenge, this prince will immediately order the north and south to stop fighting." But General Chu hesitated and didn't move. When two armies faced off against each other, a duel between the two commanders was naturally between the two commanders. Since Han Yunxi was sitting in Long Fei Ye's seat, he could duel either the Duke of Qin or Han Yunqing. This was also why Chu Yuni had called him up here. He'd agreed to the duel so easily just then because he wanted to stall for time. First, he'd trick Long Fei into ordering a halt to the battles in the north and south. Then he'd contend with Long Fei on the duel candidates to buy more time. But Long Fei Yi actually wanted him to go down the city walls. How was he supposed to deal with this? Although Long Fei Yi didn't rush him, he didn't have time to waste. After all, the two commanderies had already started fighting and were probably fighting fiercely right now. While General Chu was worrying, a soldier brought him two battle reports. As soon as he opened them up, his expression changed. Both the north and south were in dire straits, especially Yuyun Prefecture. Emperor Kangcheng had sent half a battalion of Northern Li cavalry to join the original army. Judging by the current situation, it was impossible to take Yuyun Prefecture before nightfall. General Chu knew that his best option right now was to give up on Fenglin Prefecture and head north to reinforce Yuyun Prefecture. Then it'd be easier for him to cooperate with Great General Ning. But Long Fei Yi had already provoked him to the gates. He'd just agreed to the duel, so he'd dug a hole for himself. If you ride a tiger, it's hard to get off. Long Fei Yi was unusually patient. He didn't rush him, but waited with interest. General Chu couldn't wait any longer. "Duke of Qin, Qin Wangfei is the commander. Since it's a duel, old man will arrange for a female deputy general in my camp to fight." He didn't give Long Fei Yi a chance to respond. He immediately ordered a female archer to take up the challenge. The female archer didn't have a bow with her, only a quiver full of arrows. She flew to land in front of Long Fei, seemingly afraid to draw close. Unfortunately, Long Fei Yi didn't give her a second thought. He didn't even spare her a glance. He looked up at General Chu and mocked, "You're sending a woman to fight? So there's no more men in your Chu clan army?" Han Yunqing laughed from atop her horse. "If there's no more men in the Chu clan army, then this princess can only fight in His Highness Duke of Qin's place." It was one thing for Long Fei Yi to be infuriating, but Han Yunqing was simply infuriating. Didn't her back hurt from talking while sitting? "You!" General Chu raged, but he gritted his teeth. "Long Fei Yi, since you're not interested in a duel, then this soldier won't keep you company." As soon as he finished speaking, he hurried off. He'd only pushed the female archer forward to give himself a way out of this embarrassing situation by refusing the duel. He'd long given up on the idea of a duel, but he couldn't afford to waste time here. He had to dispatch troops to Yuyun Prefecture immediately. Long Fei Yi had wasted so much time with him, so how could he let him go so easily? He didn't waste words with General Chu, but retreated to his horse. With a wave of his sword, he split the 5,000 soldiers into two groups, revealing two red coat cannons hidden among them. The soldiers on the city walls didn't even have time to report when they spotted the cannons. Long Fei Yi had long ordered the cannons to fire. Boom! Boom! The two cannons fired in quick succession, catching General Chu off guard and blasting off a corner of the city walls. General Chu and Chu Yuni were still on their way down the stairs when they were shocked by the explosion. General Chu was stunned for a long time before he gave orders to his men and rushed up the city walls. "Defend the forts, quick! Quick!" Cloud Realm Trade Consortium had given him 4 red coat cannons, making him like a tiger that had grown wings. He'd left 2 of these cannons in Fenglin Prefecture and the other 2 in Yuyun and Yaoshui prefectures. He never expected Long Fei Yi to have such rare cannons as well. General Chu saw the two red coat cannons as soon as he reached the top of the city walls. He immediately ordered the cannons to fire, but Long Fei Yi seemed to be planning to abandon the cannons altogether. He only left a few men to guard the cannons while the 5,000 soldiers split into two groups to attack the city walls from the left and right. A corner of the city walls had already been blasted open, so the consequences would be unthinkable if the cavalry managed to break in. General Chu ordered the archers to take up arms. Soon enough, a rain of arrows rained down on Long Fei Ye's soldiers from the left and right. In the middle was an artillery battle, and on the left and right sides were a rain of arrows. Although General Chu was very unhappy, this war had still started. Once the war started, he would not have the opportunity to transfer his troops to the north and south. Summon all the archers under the city. Fire arrows on the right. Crossbow bolts on the left. Quick! Someone come, fire the cannons. Blow up their robes. General Chu quickly got into the swing of things as soon as he gave orders. Both sides had two red coat cannons, so they were evenly matched in this regard. The center of the battlefield was filled with the sounds of cannons and fireworks. But the left and right sides were the fiercest. None of Long Fei Ye's soldiers were easy to deal with. They dodged the arrows as they closed in on the city walls. Many of them had already leapt off their horses to fight their way up the walls. General Chu was alarmed. He could tell that Long Fei Ye's elite soldiers had plenty of martial arts experts, but he never expected there to be so many of them. Seeing that the situation had taken a turn for the worse, he ordered, "Someone come, open the gates and meet the enemy." As soon as the gates opened, the soldiers and horses rushed out from the left and right sides to meet Long Fei Ye's elite soldiers head-on. As a result, they were more or less able to pin down the experts who'd flown up the walls. Chu Yuni also made a prompt decision to call in the Nether Clan's driving arrow squad to deal with the experts threatening the city walls. Arrows rained down everywhere, forcing many of the experts to retreat. Finally, the situation was stabilized. General Chu had assumed that the Chu clan's troops far outnumbered Long Fei Ye's elite soldiers and would quickly seize control of the situation. But as it turned out, half of the Chu clan's troops were only barely enough to keep Long Fei Ye's forces in check. They couldn't even take control of the battle, much less end it quickly. Using 5,000 elite soldiers against 25,000 was like striking a rock with an egg. But Long Fei Ye's 5,000 elite soldiers were all trained by him. They'd been raised in the vicinity of the three-way battlefield all year round, ready to face any changes at any time. Each of these soldiers was equal to 3 men. In terms of numbers, they were far more than just 5,000. General Chu was experienced enough to tell that something was amiss. "Oh no, we can't end the battle quickly. Then what do we do? Are we supposed to just watch as Yu Yun and Yao Shui are taken away from us?" Chu Yuni was very irritated. The battle had already begun, so they had to end it quickly. Otherwise, if this battle dragged on for a day or two, they'd have to face a pincer attack from the north and south. Then they'd lose without a doubt. If Chu Yuni wasn't blind in one eye, he'd be able to kill Long Fei Ye's elite soldiers with a few arrows from his vantage point. General Chu shot arrows as he tried to come up with a plan. "Someone come, pass on orders to mobilize the entire army. Everyone will be rewarded for destroying the Duke of Qin's 5,000 soldiers." Would Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqing be able to deal with all 50,000 soldiers? He didn't expect Han Yunqing to have such a hidden card. Chu Yuni decisively shoved him aside. "Don't worry about me. Kill them all. If I die, you'll be in charge of the Nether Clan." General Chu angrily fired a volley of arrows at Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqing. It had to be said that General Chu's archery skills were on par with Long Fei Ye's. Each arrow was filled with boundless power, forcing Long Fei Yi to retreat. Combined with the constant attacks of the driving arrow archers, Long Fei Yi was forced out of the city walls and had nowhere to go. It was not easy to dodge so many arrows in the air if there was no place to borrow strength. Seeing this, General Chu and the driving arrow technique all stepped up their attacks, aggressive and aggressive. Han Yunqing, hand over the antidote, or else I'll have you all die here, General Chu warned angrily. But Han Yunqing wasn't worried about Long Fei Ye's situation at all. Instead, she grew even more arrogant. If you have the skills, come and get it yourself. Ignorant woman. General Chu gritted his teeth and leaped onto the city wall. Standing on top of the city wall, he grabbed another bunch of arrows and shot them without hesitation. The surrounding driving archers all cooperated with him in shooting arrows. In a flash, Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqing were surrounded by hundreds of arrows. Long Fei Yi had nowhere to go, making his situation worrisome. Swish, suddenly, an arrow pierced Long Fei Yi's shoulder. General Chu rejoiced and fired like a madman. He didn't give Long Fei Yi a chance to catch his breath. Long Fei Yi's injured arm was the one holding Han Yunqing, so he could only keep retreating down the city walls. General Chu chased after him, along with all of the driving arrow archers, forcing Long Fei Yi into a dead end. There was nowhere for him to run except down the city walls. General Chu only laughed coldly. Duke of Qin, you should never have brought a woman onto the battlefield. A plaything like this will only ruin things. Hand her over and I'll spare your life. Long Fei Yi kept retreating without making a sound. His arm was bleeding profusely. Han Yunqing cursed General Chu. So what if she's a woman? Isn't your mother a woman? Is your mother a plaything? As she cursed, she shot out poison needles. Unfortunately, General Chu dodged all of them. You don't know what's good for you. If I were you, I would hand over the antidote and not implicate the Duke of Qin. General Chu was most concerned about the antidote, so he didn't notice the sneer on Long Fei Yi's face. He was still chasing after them. General Chu, how about we make a bet? Let's bet on whether the Duke of Qin will hand me over. Han Yunqing sneered arrogantly, provoking General Chu to chase even harder. You have to hand it over even if you don't want to. With a glance, he immediately ordered the surrounding driving arrow archers to get into formation. They surrounded Long Fei Yi from all directions. He took the upper position and aimed an arrow at Han Yunqing. Duke of Qin, if you don't hand over this woman, I'll make sure you never have the chance to regret it. He was so cunning. He didn't even give Long Fei Yi a chance to reply. He changed the direction of the arrow and shot directly at Long Fei Yi's eyes. Right at this moment, a dark needle flew out of nowhere and silently sank into General Chu's arm. The entire needle sank into his flesh. General Chu only felt a sharp pain in his arm before he couldn't feel anything. General Chu quickly regained his senses and knew that he had been ambushed. This dark needle contained a lot of force, so it could sink into his arm in an instant. However, how could it attack him silently? He could only say that he had been too careless. General Chu was shocked when he thought of this. He looked at Han Yunqing and Long Fei Yi, only to see the two of them laughing with contempt and mockery. It was an eyesore to him. General Chu finally realized that he had been tricked. Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqing had purposely lured him down the tower to distract him. Long Fei Yi's injury was intentional, and Han Yunqing's arrogance was also faked. Despicable. He immediately gave up on attacking Long Fei Yi and hurriedly stepped on a driving arrow archer to fly up the tower. The other driving arrow archers continued to attack Long Fei Yi and the others. However, without General Chu's arrows, Long Fei Yi had a much easier time. Even though his arm was injured, he could still move freely. In addition, Tang Li was hiding at the side and constantly attacking the driving arrow archers, forcing them to retreat in the end. Long Fei Yi quickly landed on the ground and wanted to jump up again. However, Han Yunqing stopped him and said seriously, "Don't move. Your injury must be treated immediately, or else it will be very troublesome. No one can cure General Chu's poison except for me. Don't worry. How could Han Yunqing not be worried about Long Fei Ye's injury? She had just cooperated with Long Fei Yi to lure General Chu down, so she had let Tang Li, who was hiding at the side, take action. She was the one who gave Tang Li the hidden needle, so it was naturally dipped in poison. The hidden needle's material and constitution were limited, so the poison wouldn't be fatal, but it was enough to make General Chu suffer. Long Fei Yi originally wanted to attack, but when he saw Han Yunqing's anxious and serious expression, the corners of his mouth twitched as if he wanted to laugh, but he held it in. He didn't wait for Han Yunqing to say more and sat down on the ground. Han Yunqing quickly took out gauze and medicinal ingredients to treat his wound. Han Yunqing had studied the Chu clan's arrows before and knew that the arrows used by their archers were specially made. Judging from the shape of the arrowheads, it would be very difficult to heal a wound. Long Fei Ye's hand couldn't be injured. With the situation so chaotic, there'd be many things to do later. Just like that, while the two armies fought fiercely, Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqing sat below the city gates as if no one else was around to treat their wounds. Han Yunqing's gaze was focused and serious, like a little old woman. She was meticulous as she treated the wound. Meanwhile, Long Fei Yi watched Han Yunqing's movements with hooded eyelids. His face was expressionless, but the corners of his lips were curled up into a half-smile. He was in a good mood. Tang Li and Chu Shifeng stood guard on the side, feeling helpless. Was this the Duke of Qin's first time leading troops into battle? In any case, neither of them believed it, much less anyone else. But this really was Long Fei Ye's first time leading troops into battle. He'd actually fought his way to the enemy's gates to treat his wounds. If this matter were to spread out, General Chu would probably lose all his face. Currently, General Chu had no time to worry about such things. Tang Li's poison needle had made his entire arm feel like it was being bitten by ants. The itch was unbearable, and the pain was unbearable. He had trouble holding an arrow, much less shooting one. He had already handed over all military affairs to his deputy generals and returned to his tent with Chu Yuni to treat his wounds. Unfortunately, the army's doctors and poison specialists had no way to treat the two brothers' poisons. They couldn't even tell what kind of poison it was. All they could do was numb General Chu's arm to lessen the pain and itch, making him feel better. That was fine, but after the numbness, General Chu couldn't even pick up an arrow with his right hand. That was probably the worst part of all. Chu Tianyin had fallen into Long Fei Ye's hands, while Chu Yuni was already blind in one eye. If General Chu's arm was crippled as well, then the Nether clan would truly be without a leader. General Chu was terrified that his arm would be crippled. He clenched his fist and slammed it against the wall in agony. He was about to lose all reason. Han Yunqing, it was that slut who poisoned me. I'm going to kill her. Kill her. General Chu probably hated Han Yunqing even more than his own daughter, Chu Qingge. Unfortunately, there was no such thing as a greater hatred. That was because Han Yunqing's next actions made his heart feel like it was about to explode. Things had been going well for them below the city walls. The 50,000 soldiers had completely suppressed Long Fei Ye's 5,000 elite troops, but Han Yunqing helped Long Fei Yi treat his wounds before joining forces with the Duke of Qin to kill the enemy. The Duke of Qin didn't make a move himself, but Han Yunqing did. Soon enough, she'd poisoned multiple archers on the city walls. Weren't those two treating their wounds below the city walls? Why did they kill the enemy together? If the Duke of Qin didn't make a move, how could Han Yunqing? Chapter 601. The Duke of Qin didn't make a move, so why would Han Yunqing make a move? Things went like this. After Han Yunqing helped Long Fei Yi treat the wound on his arm, she glanced at the intense battlefield. With just one glance, Long Fei Yi knew that she wanted to participate in the battle. He had previously agreed to bring her to the battlefield. What was the point of watching from the sidelines while injured? Thus, Long Fei grabbed her by the waist without a word and flew over. Long Fei Yi, your hand can't. Before Han Yunqing could finish speaking, Long Fei Yi interrupted her. My hand will never be injured while hugging you. Don't worry. She didn't know what expression he had when he said that, but Han Yunqing heard that his voice was a little awkward, causing her face to heat up. She took a closer look and realized that Long Fei Yi was hugging her with his right hand. The arrow wound was on his left hand. His left hand wasn't holding a sword, but was resting behind his back. Using your needle as Ben Wang's sword, can you do it? Long Fei Yi asked seriously. Han Yunqing immediately understood what he meant. I can do it. Thus, Long Fei Yi really didn't make a move. He just hugged Han Yunqing and shuttled through the army, weaving through the rain of arrows. Long Fei Yi didn't use his sword to block the arrows, but he could use Qinggong to dodge the sharp arrows. How could his ability be limited to dodging? He hugged Han Yunqing and dodged while looking for the best position for Han Yunqing to shoot the poison needles. Although Han Yunqing only knew how to use hidden weapons, she was very, very weak in the face of an entire city tower full of expert archers. However, with Long Fei Yi carrying her, she didn't need to look for an opportunity to shoot the hidden weapons. She only needed to use Pear Blossom Teardrop Rain to shoot the hidden needles after Long Fei Yi found the right opportunity. Long Fei Yi had found an opportunity. The power of Pear Blossom Teardrop Rain hit the Imperial Archer's arm without missing a target. Han Yunqing's poison needles were also very clever. A small needle wouldn't take a person's life, but it could numb an archer's arm, making him unable to pick up an arrow again. Could a driving archer still be called a driving archer if he couldn't pick up an arrow? He was just a piece of trash with no combat ability to speak of. There were many archers on the city gate. Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqing specifically targeted the archers who only had arrows and did not have bows. It didn't take long for them to be crippled. A single driving archer was equivalent to 10 archers, so they were basically killing 1 to 10. This reduced the pressure on the soldiers below the city walls. This battle could be said to be the most exciting battle that Han Yunqing had ever fought in her life. It was also the most satisfying battle she had ever fought. If she and Long Fei worked together, they were a perfect match. She was finally no longer depressed that she didn't know martial arts. With Long Fei Yi around, martial arts became something that could be replaced. Han Yunqing was having a great time fighting, but General Chu was on the verge of tears. The soldiers kept coming in to report, General, we've lost another 3 driving archers. General, Han Yunqing used poison needles. 10 driving archers have 1 arm crippled and can't even lift it. General, we've crippled another 3. What do we do? Less than an hour later, the Deputy General personally came in to report, General, half of the archers on the western wall have been crippled. When these words came out, General Chu couldn't take it anymore. What? They didn't even let the archers off. At first, they only targeted the driving archers. Later on, this subordinate ordered the driving archers to focus their efforts on killing the 2 of them. Who knew that they would anger the Duke of Qin? The Deputy General had an innocent expression. And then? General Chu angrily questioned. The Duke of Qin deployed a team of crossbow archers from somewhere to deal with the archers on the city walls. Their arrows seemed to be specially made, so their power and accuracy were far superior to ours. More importantly, they were all coated in poison. Thus, as long as they hit, even if they didn't have any vital points, they'd be crippled. Soon enough, half of our forces were wiped out. The Deputy General was helpless. This was the first time he'd seen someone use poison on the battlefield after so many years of fighting. He really wanted to know where Han Yunqing had gotten so much poison to coat her arrows. Damned Han Yunqing! General Chu wished he could kill that woman. On one side, Chu Yuni muttered to himself, the Tang clan. Those arrows must have come from the Tang clan. He remembered that Chu Tianyin had once mentioned that the young master of the Tang clan had a close relationship with Long Fei Yi. If the Tang clan really did provide them with crossbow arrows, then they were far superior to their own. With the help of the Tang clan's assassination weapons, Long Fei Yi was like a tiger that had grown wings. General, now that the Duke of Qin and Qin Wangfei are targeting driving arrow archers, the crossbow archers are aiming at our archers. We don't have any advantage in archery. If this goes on, we'll suffer disastrous losses. In this general's humble opinion, we should withdraw our archers. Once the archers were gone, the foot soldiers below the city walls would lose support from the walls, making it harder for them to end the battle quickly. Moreover, General Chu couldn't swallow his anger. We won't withdraw, he roared. Thousands of archers and 3,000 crossbow archers can't deal with them. I refuse to believe it. Pass down my orders, no matter if they're driving arrow archers or archers, they're all to target Han Yunqing. Kill them all. General Chu's orders put pressure on Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqing. After all, no matter how strong they were no match for thousands of arrows. Still, the sight of the couple darting through the rain of arrows left a deep impression in everyone's minds. Although the outcome wasn't decided yet, in a sense, the Duke of Qin and his wife had already won. Facing the concentrated rain of arrows, Han Yunqing and Long Fei Yi didn't retreat. Under the cover of the crossbow archers, they fought guerrilla warfare with the archers on the city walls. They focused on defense and occasionally found an opportunity to launch a surprise attack. Because they didn't retreat, the archers didn't dare to lower their guard and didn't care about the battlefield below the city walls. Long Fei Yi's 5,000 elite soldiers below the city walls were relieved of a lot of pressure. However, this was only to reduce the pressure on them. In the end, 5,000 people were no match for 50,000 people. After another hour, both sides suffered heavy casualties. Long Fei Yi's 5,000 soldiers couldn't afford to waste time, but the Chu clan's army could. Even if they lost 5,000 soldiers, they still had 40,000 soldiers and could still suppress Long Fei Yi. Long Fei Yi wasn't an idiot, nor was he arrogant. He wouldn't be so ignorant as to fight 50,000 with 5,000. His only goal today was to stall for time. He wanted to stall for time until Western Zhou's army and Zhongnan's army captured Yuyun and Yaoshui prefectures and came to reinforce them. Seeing that he had stalled for enough time, Long Fei Yi immediately ordered the troops to retreat. Hearing this, General Chu heaved a sigh of relief. He immediately ordered, retreat and close the city gates. Leave 3,000 soldiers to guard the city gates. Everyone else, head north to reinforce Yuyun Prefecture. Although they hadn't beaten Long Fei Yi to the point of admitting defeat, they had beaten Long Fei Yi to the point where they didn't have any more soldiers to attack Fenglin Prefecture. He could finally move his troops north without worry. Soon, the Deputy General reported the numbers. General, we've lost 1,000 archers and 5,000 infantry. Long Fei Yi's 5,000 elite soldiers are estimated to only have 2,000 left. And we've lost a day's time. General Chu added unhappily. The only thing he was thankful for was that he hadn't received any news of Yuyun Prefecture's fall. It seemed like he could still make it if he rushed there overnight. Unexpectedly, just as he arranged for 3,000 soldiers to guard the city gates and made all the preparations to move north without telling Long Fei Yi, the deputy general scrambled into the tent and shouted, "General! General! Something bad has happened! Something bad has happened!" General Chu was applying anesthetic to his arm to stop the pain. Seeing the deputy general's panicked appearance, he was incomparably annoyed and simply ignored him. Not only were they unable to defeat Long Fei Yi's 5,000 elite soldiers with 50,000 soldiers, but they had also wasted a day here. What could possibly happen at this time? Could there be anything worse than this? Unexpectedly, the deputy general's words caused General Chu to stand up in shock. He knocked over the anesthetic in the doctor's hand and forgot about the pain in his arm. The deputy general said, "General, the Duke of Qin has set up camp 1,000 meters away. He has hung the young general in front of the camp." The Duke of Qin said that if we don't surrender for a day, he will cut the young general with his sword. Without a doubt, the Chu clan's young general was Chu Tianyin. Of course, General Chu hadn't forgotten that his son was in Long Fei Ye's hands, but if Long Fei Ye didn't bring it up, he wouldn't bring it up himself lest he be threatened. Who knew that Long Fei would push Tianyin out at a time like this? The thing he was most afraid of had finally happened. That was his own son, the one he doted on the most. Although the Chu clan had plenty of heirs, there was only one son of the first wife. None of them could compare to Tianyin's martial arts skills and talents. General Chu could choose not to fight for the throne with Chu Yuni, but the latter would have to abdicate one day. His precious son was the best candidate for the position. As long as he withdrew his troops now, he could guarantee his son's safety. Faced with such temptation, General Chu couldn't make up his mind and hesitated. Chu Yuni stood on one side, very clear on General Chu's feelings for his son. He also knew that the Chu clan needed a successor now that the two of them were seriously injured. Still, he hesitated as well. Yuyun and Yaoshui prefectures were in dire straits, while Ningcheng's reinforcements had yet to arrive. If they traded Fenglin prefecture for Chu Tianyin, what would the Chu clan have left? There would be no place left for the Chu clan. Were they really going to attack Tianying's borders? After all, Emperor Tianhui was still breathing. If they entered Tianying now, they wouldn't be able to claim the throne properly. Hadn't they spent so much time and effort to give Chu Qingge a premature birth just so they could claim Tianying's throne? Although they were cooperating with Ningcheng, they still had to be on guard against Ningcheng. Emperor Tianhui was still breathing, while the crown prince had yet to ascend the throne. If they entered Tianying now, Ningcheng might accuse the crown prince and empress of conspiring with the enemy to usurp the throne. Then all their efforts in West Liang would be for naught. Both brothers had their own selfish motives and were considering the interests of their respective clans. They stared at each other for a long time. Finally, General Chu spoke up. "Big bro, you're the clan head. You make the decision." Chu Yuni couldn't help but sigh with emotion. If only Gu Beiyue was still in our hands. "Big bro, when will Ningcheng arrive?" General Chu asked. "We agreed that he'd arrive the day after tomorrow. It's only 2 days. I wonder if Tianyin, Chu Yuni wanted to waste time here. If they could hold out for 2 days, Ningcheng's reinforcements would arrive and catch Long Fei Yi unawares." Chu Yuni had made a concession by abandoning Yuyun prefecture for Fenglin prefecture, but Chu Tianyin would have to hold out for 2 days. Then he'd have to suffer 2 stabs from Long Fei Yi. If it was a fatal wound, it'd be enough to kill him. After much consideration, General Chu decided to throw caution to the wind. "Even if Gu Beiyue isn't in our hands, we can still threaten them. Using Gu Beiyue's whereabouts to threaten Han Yunqing would buy Tianyin at least 2 days. Chapter 602. General Chu's suggestion received Chu Yuni's approval. But just as he was about to leave the city for negotiations, a surprising piece of news came to him. "General, there's a report from West Liang that Emperor Tianhui has passed away." "What?" Chu Yuni was stunned. After all, which aunt had sent him a letter just a few days ago saying that Emperor Tianhui wouldn't die so easily? How come today? There were a few eunuchs and imperial physicians in Emperor Tianhui's chambers, all of whom belonged to the 4th imperial prince. Which aunt had never found a chance to make a move against Tianhui. All she could do was wait. When did this happen? General Chu asked hastily. "It takes at least 2 hours for a flying hawk to send a letter." "It should have been 2 hours ago," the attendant reported. "What else did the letter say?" General Chu asked next. "General, there was only a slip of paper from that side, but no letter." If there was a letter, the attendant would have brought it here long ago. General Chu's heart grew uneasy as he looked towards Chu Yuni. Chu Yuni's eyes flickered between light and darkness. Wait a moment. Which aunt wasn't so unreliable? She must have sent a report in her panic, so she'd probably send a letter with details soon enough. With Emperor Tianhui gone, Tianning's situation would change drastically as well as the entire western region. But no matter what, it would still be beneficial for them. At this point, they didn't need to rush to expose Gu Beiyue. They had to calm down and figure out the situation before deciding how to deal with the Duke of Qin. Ning Cheng should have received the news by now. Noble consort Ning should be making a move as well, Chu Yuni said. As Chu Yuni spoke, he personally wrote a secret letter to Ning Cheng, then another to which aunt. Immediately, he sent a messenger hawk north to deliver the message. No matter who the letter was, it was a plea for help. Once the crown prince ascended the throne, Empress Chu could rule from behind a curtain and issue military orders to send Tianning's western troops to reinforce the Chu clan troops. There was no need to wait for the Ning clan troops to arrive. Although Tianning didn't have many troops stationed in the west, even a mosquito's leg was meat. The current situation at Yuyun and Yaoshui was truly urgent. Flying hawks were the fastest way to send letters across Cloud Realm continent, but Chu Yuni still hadn't received a reply from Ning Cheng after 4 hours. They did not receive any news from western capital even when the sun was about to rise. General Chu finally felt uneasy. Could it be that something happened in western capital? Not really. Tiannin's forces in West Liang are enough to oppose the 4th imperial prince, much less noble consort Ning. Chu Yuni said seriously. General Chu had a complicated look in his eyes. Although he didn't want to be suspicious, he couldn't help but ask, Big brother, Ning Cheng, could it be? Before he could finish, Chu Yuni refuted the idea. Impossible. Old man even handed Gu Beiyue over to him. He can't possibly betray the Chu clan at this time. Ning Cheng had always been loyal to the Western Qin imperial clan. After Chu Yuni confirmed Ning Cheng's identity, he told Ning Cheng that the Western Qin imperial clan hadn't been exterminated and that his daughter had a phoenix birthmark on her back. Ning Cheng had been happy for 3 days and 3 nights, praising the Nether clan's schemes over and over again. His loyalty couldn't be faked. He had no reason to refuse to cooperate with the Nether clan, much less trick the Chu clan at a time like this. That wouldn't do him any good in reviving Western Qin. Chu Yuni waited until it was daybreak. But neither Ning Cheng nor witch aunt replied to her letter. General Chu grew uneasy. Big brother, could it be that Ning Cheng discovered something? Chu Yuni stared at the map without a word. Meanwhile, Han Yunqing had just woken up in Long Fei Ye's arms. She had no idea that the situation had changed overnight. She remembered that after setting up camp last night, they'd all sat around the fire to discuss matters. As they chatted, she grew tired and somehow fell asleep. By the time she woke up, Tang Li and Chu Shifeng were gone. Only she and Long Fei Yi were left in the tent. Long Fei Yi still didn't know she was awake. He was currently staring at the fire, the flames dancing in his eyes as if his thoughts were unfathomable. Han Yunqing was lying in his arms, so she couldn't see his eyes. She could only see his chin and Adam's apple from this angle. When this man was quiet, he was like a statue carved by the workmanship of the gods. He was so perfect that there wasn't a single flaw. Han Yunqing would never tire of seeing him like this no matter how many times she looked. As she stared and stared, she couldn't help but murmur, Long Fei Yi, how did I end up running into you? How did she end up running into him after 3,000 years in a sea of people? How lucky was that? Long Fei Yi finally realized that Han Yunqing was awake. He lowered his head and gently brushed aside her bangs. What did you say? Nothing. It was fine if he didn't hear her words. He probably wouldn't answer her even if she asked. Han Yunqing lazily rose to her feet. Long Fei Yi didn't pursue the matter, but simply said, Tianhui has passed away. He was very calm, but Han Yunqing was stunned. Passed away? When did this happen? Last night. Chu Shifeng's already rushed over. The situation. I'm afraid it's not optimistic, Long Feiyi replied. Han Yunqing understood the gravity of the situation, which was why she was so shocked. Although they were on the battlefield, they were still keeping an eye on Western Liang's movements. After all, Long Feiyi had to be on guard against Great General Ning taking control of the capital. Noble Consort Ning might be unknown, but that didn't mean she had no power in Western Liang. Thus, Long Feiyi was not only on guard against Chu Qingge, but Noble Consort Ning as well. The spies he'd planted in the palace had sent word the day before yesterday that Emperor Tianhui would at least live through the new year. How could he have passed away last night? Someone must have made a move. Han Yunqing was certain. As soon as she finished speaking, Tang Li suddenly rushed in with a startled cry. Big bro! We've been tricked. Great General Ning didn't send troops to the 3 eastern prefectures at all. His 2 main armies have long headed south. He even sent half of his cavalry troops to the east on the road. It looks like he's guarding against Long Tianma. What's the situation in Western Liang? Han Yunqing asked anxiously. Long Feiyi and Ning Cheng had agreed to unite the 3 armies while he and Emperor Kang Cheng had sent troops to the 3 eastern prefectures ahead of time. One of their goals was to suppress the Chu clan, but the other was to lure Ning Cheng's troops over. Long Feiyi naturally had to be on guard against Ning Cheng's designs on Tianning. Long Feiyi had taken precautions in Western Liang as well. It wasn't surprising that Ning Cheng would send troops to Western Liang. Right now, he was only mobilizing his troops. He hadn't taken control of West Liang yet, so Han Yunqing was most concerned about the situation there. Tang Li's face was full of anxiety. Chu Qingge and Noble Consort Ning are colluding. Even Long Feiyi was surprised by the news. Really? He asked coldly. Absolutely. Big bro, those 2 women can't be underestimated. With the 2 of them working together and the Ning clan's troops, our men won't be able to control Western Liang, Tang Li said helplessly. How could that be? Since they're in cahoots, Ning Cheng should send reinforcements to the Chu clan. Han Yunqing didn't understand. Ning Cheng had so many troops under his command, but he hadn't sent a single one here. All of them were stationed within Tianning's borders. How was he supposed to cooperate with the Chu clan? Chu Qingge had even more power than Noble Consort Ning in Western Liang. Would she be willing to be controlled by the Ning clan? Would she just watch as General Chu was trapped in the 3 eastern prefectures? Long Feiyi had focused all his efforts on the 3 eastern prefectures just to wait for Ning Cheng's arrival. I don't get it either. But that's what Chu Shifeng reported. He wouldn't make a mistake. Tang Li said seriously. At this moment, Long Feiyi spoke up. Chu Qingge betrayed the Chu clan to rely on Ning Cheng. Chu Yuni was tricked as well. This, Han Yunqing didn't dare to believe it, but Long Feiyi's conjectures cleared up all their doubts. Chu Yuni was still foolishly waiting for Ning Cheng's reinforcements. They were waiting for Ning Cheng to send reinforcements as well, but Ning Cheng had hooked up with Chu Qingge and worked with her from the inside. He'd effortlessly taken control of Western Liang and Tianning as well. In other words, Ning Cheng's 2 armies weren't sent to Western Liang, but south to guard against the Chu clan and us? Han Yunqing finally understood everything. There was only one way for the Ning clan troops to head south. It would take less than a day to reach the border between Tianning and the 3 eastern prefectures if they headed west. If they headed east, they would quickly reach Suzi Pass. Once they gained control of Suzi Pass, they would also gain control of Western Capital's southwestern defense line. Ning Cheng had left Western Liang in Chu Qingge and Noble Consort Ning's hands while he sent troops east and west to set up defenses. He didn't want to provoke Long Feiyi, nor save the Chu clan troops. He wanted to dominate Tianning alone. How despicable. Big bro, what do we need the 3 eastern prefectures for? Send reinforcements there immediately. Let's have the Bailey army send out troops as well. If we take the water route from Yaoshui, the mermaid soldiers will reach western Liang within days. We'll use the marines to catch them off guard. Tang Li was very excited. But Long Feiyi only glared at him coldly. Tang Li wasn't excited at all, but impulsive. The mermaid soldiers were Long Feiyi's trump card. How could they be exposed so easily? Tang Li felt resentful at the glare and didn't dare to speak again. Long Feiyi's eyes flashed with cold light. Although he didn't show his emotions on his face, it was obvious that he was unhappy inside. He'd calculated everything, but never expected Chu Qingge to betray the Chu clan or Ning Cheng to hook up with her. This was the first time in his life that he'd failed at Ning Cheng's hands. Even if he gave up on the 3 eastern prefectures and sent reinforcements now, it was already too late. Long Feiyi's face was gloomy, while Han Yunqing's expression wasn't any better. She said hatefully, I really underestimated that woman, Chu Qingge. If Chu Qingge hadn't betrayed the Chu clan this time, Ning Cheng wouldn't have been able to take over western Liang so easily no matter how capable he was. In the end, Chu Qingge was the key. At this moment, a guard arrived with Chu Shifeng's latest letter. Long Feiyi opened it and glanced at it before handing it to Han Yunqing. It said that Ning Cheng had set up 10 or so red coat cannons on Tianning's eastern front to keep Long Tianma in check. These cannons had to come from Cloud Realm Trade Consortium, which meant that there was no need to doubt Ning Cheng's identity as a member of the D clan's Ning clan. Han Yunqing and Tang Li were both unreconciled. They were waiting for Long Feiyi to send reinforcements to save the day. Long Feiyi's face was expressionless, making it impossible to tell whether he was angry or unwilling. His emotions were hard to read. Cold, he instructed Tang Li, go urge Chu Yuni. Tell him that your lordship will give him 10 days to think things over. If he doesn't surrender by then, your lordship's first strike will land on Chu Tianning's hand. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.